It's Saturday night. That means it's time to hang out with the Bearded Comic Bro, have a drink, and talk about movies.
Absolutely.
Right? How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing well. It's
cheers, man.
Yeah, cheers, love. I got one right here. It's been good. This has been one of my favorite shows to prep for because I feel like I'm always stressed. Like I get invited on your guys' shows, like, hey, hop on Comic Gores. I'm like, okay, and like I'm stressed out. Or then they're like, hey, hop on Lamer Frame, and I'm like, all right, I gotta impress people. Here I'm like, my planning for the movie is to sit down, have a drink, and watch more movies. I'm like, okay, I can do this stream all. Like, this is a stream I'll never get tired of.
That's amazing. Yeah, when you go on the competition, like I am feeling way more calm after finishing Comic Boys today. It's like I could clean up and I could put up movies and be like chill, right?
Real quick, not to get sidetracked, Comic Gore is like how I saw you guys make the finals, and then I had to because Saturdays are family time for most times.
Yeah,
so I missed. How'd you guys finish up?
It's very exciting, and you'll have to watch the replay. I'm not spoiling that. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. I posted my books though. I did make it to the finals.
I saw that.
6 books today. If I'd only posted 3, you probably know that I got bounced in the first round.
No, it was good. So I liked it. I saw you guys had some new voting and stuff, so it was cool.
Yeah, we were trying something out, and it seemed like people were enjoying it. Not too complicated. They're automating my job. You know, I feel like
right.
the word on the assembly line being kicked out for the robot.
You're like, oh man, like is that a sensitive subject right now for you?
It is. I mean, I feel like I didn't ask for it. I was fine. I can count. My abilities are being called into question here.
I think it's when you call on other people.
Let's say hello to the chat. Simon R was the first one there. He's saying this is going to be a good one, and we had a bunch of thumbs up before we even started. So huge thanks to those of you that came by early, including this guy, this Jamoke. I don't know. But the link to his channel is down below in the description. Woo. We want to get him to 300. He's at like 250, somewhere around there.
267 as of late. So we're getting close. So baby steps, in the words of Bill Murray, right? Like
sub up a couple more. Let's get him over that 300. Hello to No Good Comics. Hello. Thank you for coming by. Justin is hanging out. Rob Boswell says, so we're drinking and watching movies, so essentially we're being Perry's channel tonight. Fact. I'll accept that.
I'll allow it.
But we are reviewing, not just watching. Right? Ruben Guzman, my local comic buddy. Good to see you. I say it every time because I don't have a lot of people that I know that go to my LCS and are in this community.
Nice. All right.
So I see him almost every Wednesday now because it's I go at the same time when I'm not working. I go at the same time as him.
That's awesome.
Jeffrey says, I've been coming here every summer of my adult life, and every summer she is oiling and lotioning and oiling. I can't take it anymore. He's wearing the You're Killing Me Small shirt. Mine is dirty. I went with the fantasy football Heisman Wizard instead, although we're not doing football this week. Football later on. So Jeffrey quoting Sandlot beautifully.
So good. If you didn't know, why are you watching our show?
Right, yeah, really not the show. Go watch Sandlot and then come back later. Rod says, send me the invite. He is ready to go. He's been on every show today, man, even though he's supposed to take the day off.
Rod's been like, Rod all last weekend's like, guys, I'm not going to be on the show. And next week, and then I've seen him last night, today.
He also dropped an edit video you should totally check out. Rod doesn't drop a lot of edit videos. When he does, they're fire. He had a sneaky AOK unboxing, mystery unboxing. He got some good books in there. Chaos says, I should have gotten on this one. Everybody wants to join us on this one, so we're going to have to pick a guest for next time.
We will. We've gotten a lot of requests this time.
Yeah, and we're going to make this a 2-parter, so don't worry. We will have round 2 at some point here. Chaos is saying, especially actually liking sports means you're typically busy on Saturday nights. Ooh. Burned. Not right now, though.
Not right. Well, I mean, now that everything is popped up, like, yes, but
we got Comic Man Andy, one of the great supporters of this community, doing some awesome stuff. He says, doing some drive-by loving. Thank you, brother.
Ooh.
He also said, great to see you, my man. Hope you're having a great weekend. He was talking to, where is he? Comic Books NYC, talking about the Lakers. He didn't grow up in Los Angeles, but when he lived out here, you know he was a big Lakers fan. There was a lot of good Lakers glory back in those days.
Oh, yeah.
When we were driving around LA together, we were talking about the old LA days. So my family's had season tickets to either the Lakers or the UCLA Bruins basketball pretty much my adult life. I haven't gone to a lot of Laker games because they usually sell half of those tickets just to cover the cost. But the Bruins games, I went to a ton. I got to see John Wooden himself several times on the court. Such a man. Guy. Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's still John and Nell and John Wooden court, like the fact that he and his wife both got their names on it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We got also Big O in the chat. Thank you for coming by. Perry's lurking with the eyes. We were talking about you earlier, but good stuff for the most part. Gore Vidal says, when I was a kid, I played soccer. We were the Spartans. What we had in common with them was that we got crucified at every game. That probably is the comment of the night right there.
The problem is no one's going to beat it, but everyone's going to try, and then it's just going to come off as awkward. And
my high school team was the Artists. So how threatening were we? Right? We showed up.
We're not helping the California rep at all.
No, not at all. Yeah. Really, really, really weak sauce altogether. We're talking about sports movies tonight and in the follow-up maybe a couple weeks from now, because I got to watch a ton of movies, no question.
Right.
We've been talking about a lot of sports movies, and we decided that rather than do some kind of like top 5, blah, 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 we decided what we were going to do is break it down by sport and then just talk about some of our favorites and some of the more sentimental picks maybe that we have within each sport. And we split it up over 10 categories, and 5 of them we're going to have for you tonight. We got kids sports, we got boxing, we've got soccer, we've got Olympics, and we're going to finish with baseball, which, as you can see by the lineup of DVDs I've got here, is definitely one of my favorites.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a good show anyways. You got to get people in at the beginning, but then you got to give them a reason to stick around at the end.
So for those of you basketball, football, martial arts fans, we're going to have a bunch of stuff for phase 2, and that will definitely be the next round that we get into.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, I feel like even in the process of prepping for this, because I was telling you off, backstage, I was like, this has been great. Like, I tell my wife, I'm like, I got to watch these movies, to do a little prep work for homework. Yeah. But man, it's good because there are some picks that I probably would have made that I thought I would have made, and like it changes it up, and like because I think you get a lot of nostalgia fog in your head when you're thinking about some of these movies, especially I think with sports.
Yeah,
when you're talking sports or kids movies, things that you watched as a kid. So I'll be interested to see, because I feel like some people are going to be like, how do you guys not have some of these movies on? Or what are
one of the biggest ones for me, I growing up in Southern California, volleyball is a big deal. Like I played, my brother played, and my girls are super into it. And one of the only volleyball movies around, if you don't count that scene in Top Gun, which you couldn't, is Side Out with C. Thomas Howell. And I remember loving it as a kid. And about 15 years ago, I rewatched it, and that movie is straight garbage. That movie is awful. And,
but if it's something you love, that's all you had.
But at the time, it meant a crap ton. Growing
up, I was a high school. I wrestled, and college wrestled, and before the last 10 years, now you've done a couple more wrestling movies that are. But before that, it was Vision Quest with what's his face, Matthew Modine.
Matthew Modine, right?
Modine, yeah. And that was it. And it's not a great movie, but if you say that to any wrestler, I'm like, no, that
How
is.
dare you?
That's
sir?
Our Godfather, because it was the only thing we had.
That's our Godfather. So we've already hit the top 2 comments of the night. One from the chat, one from Greg. We're done.
We're done. We'll end the show now.
Yeah. Hello to Geek Aficionado and Southern Comic Geek, both coming by. And no basketball tonight. So I'm sorry, Kavi. I know you and I, Kavi, are big basketball fans, at least watching. That's one of the few sports I like to watch. And I thought we could start a little bit with this. I want to start off by saying I'm a horrible athlete. I've never been talented in the athlete. I got into sports and then got out of them pretty quickly and moved into like dramatic arts and filmmaking and other stuff and got away from this. My brothers played sports. In fact, my younger brother actually played professional basketball in Germany for 2 years. Nice. I do not have those skills, but I've always loved sports movies as like a filler maybe, or from inspiration standpoint, they are really just the peak. I was curious for you, like, what is your connection to sports movies?
So for me, I mean, I dabbled into every type of sport I could play. I would try to play. I was a mutt when it came to sports. I was baseball. I did football. I golfed. I played basketball. But ultimately, as I mentioned just a little bit, I mean, wrestling was my sport of choice. I did it in high school, did it in college, coached high school wrestling here in Columbus for like 8 years. So wrestling was my thing. But sports, I feel like whether you played sports or watched sports movies resonate with so many people because of what you talked about for the most part. They're stories of hope. They're stories of, a lot of times, of overcoming adversity. Like whether it's cheesy or not, but like that's what people, that's what an entertaining movie. And then you get some talented actors who put that in, and man, it's good. So that's kind of my sports connection. So it's anything. If there's a sport on TV, I'm watching it. I mean, I was getting hyped for cornhole during quarantine. I'm like, I watched a hot dog eating contest and then I watched cornhole and I'm like, let's go. Cause I just needed sports in my life. It was so sad.
Oh my God. Hello, Sing Jay. Thank you for coming by, man. For me, like, I don't even watch a lot of sport. Like I enjoy playing it well enough. Like I'll play volleyball with my friends. I'll play, with my students, I'll play a little flag football or something. Like, I don't mind. I'm just not particularly talented at any of these things. So I never really put effort into it. And I'm not selling myself short, Jeffrey. No, I could not have been an athlete in any way. I'm just tall and skinny. That's just metabolism and genetics. That's not.
It sounds like we need to start a comic book YouTuber volleyball team because
I'm tall enough. I don't have a lot of jump.
My wife and I, we were signed up to be in the same volleyball league beforehand. So when that got canceled, I'm like, oh, why don't I start a YouTube channel?
Hey, Kavi's saying I'd play sports if I wasn't fat, slow, short, and untalented. Hilarious. He says I used to play 5 sports at the same time in junior high and early high school. There you go. But so for me, like, I don't even like watching. There's only certain sports I'm willing to watch. Basketball moves fast enough that I enjoy it. I honestly, I'm sorry to say, I can't stand football. I can't stand to watch it. I only like to play it sometimes. I hate fantasy football. This is I rebel against fantasy. This is what I wish fantasy football was.
That's from the league, isn't it?
What
is that from the league? No,
I just found it on a channel, like, website, and I bought it. But what I do want to say is that, like, I'll watch a sports football movie with glee. Right. I feel like there's a dividing line between enjoying a sport and enjoying a sports movie. Yep. Where I don't need to know all the intricate rules of soccer to enjoy a good soccer movie, because the characters and the story move it along in such a way that I'm drawn into their lives and not necessarily caring about the intricacies of the sport itself.
Right.
So that was our setup. As a reminder, we will have a second round. I don't know if we're going to need a couple of weeks probably just to watch a ton of movies and pick a guest who's okay to watch some movies. Like we said, it's not really a countdown. You're not really going to get a top 5. It's really just an ongoing discussion. And we really hope you in the chat throw in your favorites as we go along with our slideshow here, just to give us an idea of movies we might have missed and movies that we could add if we haven't seen some of these, because there were a ton of movies I watched, and I know Greg watched a ton, that we can be throwing in to our future goings.
I will say, I feel confident trying to think of the list. I probably watched 68% of the movies that made our list in these last 3 weeks, because I'm like, let's do it. And I
watched a bunch too.
Yeah, we did. So we were prepping. Another fun thing that I said to John on this that I kind of thought it'd be fun to do at some points is throughout the stream, I came up with some trivia questions about movies that we're talking about, and I'm just gonna test John's knowledge a little bit and see how it is. So,
and I totally forgot about that part of the show, so I'm gonna have to base it solely on what I already know about these movies,
which is fine.
Okay.
So I've got some easy ones. I've got some ones that might get
my way through trivia on most things.
Right. I mean, I can too.
All right. So let's dive in. Here is our shout out to Greg, who basically put this entire slideshow together. Did the great graphics, really cool stuff. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no worries. Figure I got to pull my weight around here sometime so I can just
make
sure
you're doing more than this show. I'll make up for it in round 2. I hope. Oh, by the way, I'm having a little Jameson. I saw you're having a little beer there.
What's the beer? It's Elvis Juice. It's a brewery here in Columbus. It's from Brewdog. They actually are based in Scotland, and Columbus, Ohio is their U.S. distribution center. That's their main brewery. So it's a really good beer. So a lot of our UK viewers will be familiar with it because it's in UK, Scotland, all over. But yeah,
nice. So hopefully you're having a little something at home, water or whatever, just drink along and hang out with us. And we're going to start our show off with kids sports. And we're going to explain what that means, because there's a lot of ways to look at a category called kids sports. You can see some of those movies here. What were you thinking when it came to kids sports?
So for me, when I was thinking kids sports movies, I was thinking that time frame from like 1991 to like 94. When every single movie came through that was loaded with kid actors. Obviously, a lot of these you still had to have someone like Emilio Estevez. You had to have your Rick Moranis or your Danny Gilbert as kind of the main person. But movies that were either the kids were the main characters, or if they weren't the main characters, they were still memorable. Mm-hmm. So, like, that era when we're talking kids movies. We're not talking Air Bud, we're not talking Space Jam. Space Jam's a great kids movie, but it's not the kids sports. We're talking about like where kids take the stage of the movie.
Yeah, which I thought was a great way to describe it. Because Space Jam became this movie that was in limbo, where we were like, it's a movie for kids and adults, but it's not really a movie about kids sports. And that's kind of where we drew the line, was like, we want these movies to be about the kids playing the games or being directly involved in the game.
Yep. So that's kind of where we came from it. So yeah.
Look, a lot of people shouting out some of this. Yeah. Again, shout out to Greg making this the slides here. So they're shouting out what they see already here, which is a bunch of Mighty Ducks. So we're going to start with the list of movies that Greg and I agreed are some of the top movies in kids sports. And here are our choices for you. Or not choices. Here are the ones that we selected for you. Sandlot, for me, is tip of the spear, top of the pyramid. It is the kids sports movie. But we also threw in Bad News Bears, which several people in the chat, including Gorvidal, have mentioned. And I picked Mighty Ducks 1, you picked Mighty Ducks 2, and I just kind of felt like, you know what? This is a sandwich that everybody's happy to take a bite of. Let's just throw it all together and just eat it.
Yeah. We left out Mighty Ducks 3, which I will say though, like it gets pooped on a lot, but it actually isn't as bad as I think we make it out to be. But
certainly not worthy of 1 or 2, but not garbage.
No, correct. And that's, I think, what's interesting, and we talked about Bad News Bears because this obviously fell out of that time frame when, and we're talking the original Bad News Bears. I assume this cat knows that we're not talking about Billy Bob Thornton.
Walter Matthau all the way.
But I feel like the kids in that are memorable enough that they complement Walter well in that, where they, you'd remember those characters in the movie. So I think that's why it fits into, from that definition into it. But I mean, these are iconic movies. And as you just see from the chat, people are already throwing up, like quoting the Mighty Ducks, quoting everything. And
Sandlot, I mean, Jeffrey quoted a whole chunk out of Sandlot right off the bat. The first thing he said. And for me, that is the reason Sandlot beats everything is because it's a movie that basically says this is screw the adults, like forget the adults. This is about the kids' perspective on the sport, the kids' perspective on what it means to them, the kids playing the game. I mean, the Dennis Leary and I'll just call her Marion Ravenwood can just like skip it. They can just skip the whole thing, right? I mean, even James Earl Jones, who comes in with a killer finale moment, take the back seat to these kids. Every single one of them, Squints, like all those kids are just so phenomenal, and they just lead an amazing story.
But and that's a great example. I mean, I think they just did what's his face? Josh Gad has been doing those like reunion shows, Zoom calls,
right?
And they just did a Sandlot one, and I can't tell. I don't remember. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but you don't care if Dennis Leary is in it or not,
right? Who cares?
And it's crazy to say, like, you aren't devastated if James Earl Jones isn't in a reunion show, because as great as he is, we've talked about him on previous shows. You care is yeah there, like
is
Benny the Jet gonna be there? Is Ham, like all these kids that's what you want, right? Like that's what makes a good kids movie to me.
Look at all the quotes for Sandlot. The chat is amazing.
It's so good, right? I think the first time I watched it with my wife, I remember her sitting there going like, "Oh, so this is where you got half of your vocabulary from, like that you say, like all the time." The classic, everyone's doing it, right? Great Bambino, the "You're killing me, Smalls." You've got the let's have some s'mores. S'more what? I mean, if you don't make s'mores and make that quote, come on.
Who are you, right? There's so many iconic moments, but it all plays out with these amazing kids, and they're each given a character to inhabit that feels unique and plays well with the others, and again, it's all steeped in the fun of being a kid and playing a game, and it builds, of course, to bigger things. But for me, it all starts with that kid. Jeffrey, you're slaying this right now, man. Sultan of SWAT, King of Crash, Colossus of Clout, Great Bambino, you're slaying it, man.
But I think why it's a quintessential kids sports movies, because we'll talk about some other ones, especially baseball. But Sandlot doesn't take place in the major leagues. Sandlot doesn't take place in the minor leagues. It takes place in your backyard of your neighborhood. And what kid doesn't remember talking about, playing baseball? Like whether you were like that's something that resonates with us of like, it takes us right into the nostalgia right there, because you're like, I remember playing baseball. I remember grabbing my group of friends and doing what we can. And, and I think that still resonates with us and we can relate to that. And I think that's what we want as moviegoers, is stuff that we can relate to a degree. There's other stuff where I can't relate that I love, but they're still great.
Right. So Kavi's saying it's the movie that has the narration style of a flick like Goodfellas. It's also about youth and baseball.
Yep.
I think it's a great way to describe it. It is a total classic. Geek Aficionado, I think, is asking, why aren't we talking about these movies? And we will definitely get to them. We're talking about kids sport movies.
I should have put that. I realized that once we're doing, because
it's fine. These are our favorite. Yeah. These are our favorite kid sports movies. So we're starting off with those kid movies. And I want to let's spend a little time on Bad News Bears and Mighty Ducks before we move on to the next part here. What I love about Bad News Bears is I feel like, and I think I had a writing teacher once talk about how people tend to write kids two ways, right? Either as like adults who never act the way a kid would act, like they do, they behave and say things that an adult would say, but not a kid, or they write them as kids genuinely are. And what I love about Bad News Bears is those are straight up kids, man. Those are the kids are doing and saying things that kids would say and do, and making mistakes that kids would mistake. And I think what I love about Bad News Bears is you get Walter Matthau as a coach, and you get these kids the way they are. It is gold. That combination is gold.
And And it's been a formula that movies have tried to recreate for ever, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially when it's talking about a kid's sports movie.
And Keanu Reeves did a kid's sports coach thing.
Hardball.
Yeah.
We go into this shit. It's a good one, but
it's not bad, but it's
not
no
bad.
Bad News Bears.
It's no Bad News Bears. But I think that even leads into Mighty Ducks. The formula of Mighty Ducks is very, especially the first one, is very similar to Bad News Bears.
Yeah, no Bad News Bears, no Mighty Ducks. I'm basically willing to state that emphatically.
Right. So,
ooh, some people saying Hardball may be a little too heavy. Yeah, there's some heavy portions to that movie for sure.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely,
Walter Matthau is an icon.
hands down.
Do we want to move on to our sentimental picks?
I think we got to spend a little bit of time on Mighty Ducks.
Let's do it.
So let me ask you this: Why was it the first one for you? Because I have my reasons why the second one. Because I do like the second one better than the first.
I think for me, I've always been a person that has had a hard time giving credit to a sequel because a first film sets things up. And a second film, even if a second film is amazing, and those rare sequels like Aliens or Godfather 2 that might be better than the original, are only functional because of the hard work made possible in an original.
Right.
And all through like college even, I had a hard time saying Aliens was the better film. I had a hard time saying Godfather 2 was the better film. I had a hard time. And it's still the same. And truthfully, I haven't watched Mighty Ducks 2 recently. And I would need to watch it again. But my brain went, and it's possible I just took all the Mighty Ducks films and put them into one movie, and it was the first movie.
Right. Well, it's funny because I think like Mighty Ducks 2 D2 is one that I feel like it shouldn't work in any degree of the way. Like you have Mighty Ducks where it's like, hey, these are your, no-name kids, down on their luck. You have Emilio Estevez who gets a DUI. So they're like, you know what? Your punishment is you're going to train young people. And like, anyways, but they literally jump from them winning a Pee-wee League in Minnesota, just in like, that'd be like Columbus, Ohio, right? Like in Minneapolis, right. Minnesota, like that one time that now that, hey, you guys won this league. We want you guys to represent Team USA for the Junior Olympics. Like it shouldn't work. And that's where, but where it does work for me is because they go so into it, right? Like you feel like it's an Olympic movie because that's what they take it. They're putting them on Wheatie boxes. First off, Junior Olympics, you're never going to be on a Wheatie box. I hate to break it to you guys. I don't care how great of a team you are, but it was so much fun. And I remember those, those are the characters that read me like, what's key? I'm blank. Kenan Thompson's character, where he does a knuckle puck, right? And Tyler, his character's name's, I forget what his name is. Tyler. Someone tell me in the chat. But like
I'm not remember characters' names from Mighty Ducks.
I remember the Bash Brothers, like, and then them trying to. It just was. It's something that for me, I was like, I remember. I'll always go towards D2 more than I will towards Mighty Ducks. Now, that's not to say anything against Mighty Ducks because I can't start D2 without watching Mighty Ducks. So,
and that's what Jeffrey was saying, that he's like, I was just gonna say it's almost like a double feature. You just watch both,
right?
And several people like Gore mentioning that these were movies that, people would have called Child Protective Services, but they were captured. These movies captured the bad behavior of kids, right?
Right. Well, while we're on Mighty Ducks, I'm going to give you an easy trivia for their first one. There's a actor in Mighty Ducks. Can you tell me what Marvel TV show he's in?
One of the actors from Mighty Ducks.
One of the kids in the Mighty Ducks movies is in a Marvel TV show that I feel confident that you would have watched.
I'm going to say Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, it's a Netflix.
Oh, it's one of the Netflix ones.
It's a Netflix one that I think you would.
I knew that the kid that played Pacey on Dawson's Creek was one. That was like one of the ones that I knew.
Right.
And I don't think he's been in any of the Marvel shows, so I was like, that's not him. Is it Daredevil?
It is. It's Daredevil.
The guy that
Foggy
plays
Nelson.
Charlie Cox?
No, the guy who plays Foggy Nelson.
Oh, God, you're so right. Good God, what an idiot.
Yep.
Look, he's saying Goldberg, the goalie.
He played Fulton Reed.
Foggy. Fulton Reed, the crazy guy. Look, they're saying it.
Yep.
So look, I failed the first trivia question.
That's right. That's
all like a girl. Boy, we went 7. You missed Sandlot discussion. We're on to Mighty Ducks now, but thank you for coming by, man.
So, well, we better get to our sentimental pick because
for each category of sport, each of us picked a sentimental pick, maybe something that most people wouldn't put in their top 5 or their favorite films from that category of sports. But for Greg and I, we each picked a film that was one of our favorite kids sports movies in this category that we really like.
Or it also might have fallen into we didn't have enough space in our top picks.
Right?
So
we only limited ourselves to either 3, like in this category, or 5, like we did in baseball. And that meant, I mean, I got, 6 baseball movies right here, 5 baseball movies right here. And there's always going to be stuff left out.
Yep. So
Walter Matthau, for example, drank on the field around the kids. He was like our scouts leader, and none of us thought that was odd. Yeah, there you go. I think we drove him to drink. Hey, I'm a dad, and I'm drinking and talking movies, so cheers to you all.
Same. So,
all right, so let's see. The first sentimental pick, I believe, is yours. Let's see.
I think I put mine all first. So
Boom.
Rookie of the Year. Again, and I clarified because Rookie of the Year would be easily top 5 pick for me, favorite kid sports movies. That is one that I've rewatched recently because I met the Rookie of the Year himself at a con.
No way.
So
how old is that guy now?
Because he was in American Pies when he was playing a high school kid in 1999.
Oh, wow.
So that was 20 years ago. So he's
just a little younger than you, probably.
Yeah. He's probably older than me. He's older than me.
Damn. Jeffrey says Rookie of the Year is great. I do agree. I think it's a really good movie.
Yeah. And so that is one that, again, I quote, that it still holds up for me. I watched it recently and it's still, the nostalgia for me is fantastic. Oh, yeah. And Daniel Stern is great as the goofy kind of like coach who's going to take care of him. And yeah, it's just, I couldn't have kid sports movies and not talk about Rookie of the Year. And that shows you that is one of those where it's not a team ensemble of a kids movie. It literally is the main character is a kid.
One kid, yeah.
And you see that with this one. You also see that with Little Big League, which is a good movie, and I did just rewatch that too.
That's the one where the kid is the manager, right?
His grandpa owns the Twins, and he then gets to take the team, and then he also
don't know Rookie of the Year. It's the one when the kid has a shoulder injury that all of a sudden gives him the ability to pitch an insanely fast pitch, and he becomes a pro while he's still in elementary school or junior high or whatever. Yeah.
So that's where I say, like, those movies, we don't relate. We enjoy them, but we don't relate to them in the same sense that we do with Sandlot.
Right.
Because none of us that's not physical, like where you're gonna break your arm and you can throw faster.
Right? But it's that dream that kids have where they're like, I want to be out there with my favorite players playing the game.
Yeah.
NYC says he likes Little Big League a little more, and they are definitely similar.
They're both in the same vein. They both have your your sentimental kid is talking about, the mom of the kid falls in love with the baseball player on the team, like it's who's the kid's idol.
Absolutely.
All
right, let's go on to my sentimental pick. And I grew up in Southern California, so it's going to be Angels in the outfield. And this is a tricky one because the kids don't actually play in the game. They sort of affect the game from the side, but it is from their perspective. The 2 boys in the story, specifically Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and as a kid actor, an amazing performance. They're affecting the on-the-field game played by some great actors. The Tony Danzas, the Matthew McConaughey's of the world, starring on the field as the players. I love
Adrian Brody.
What's that?
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody. So a really great set of players, but for me, it was the kids that led this story and were the heart of the story. And I was a big, big fan of Angels in the Outfield. Of course, I was an Angels fan, and it's the team that I probably root for more than any other. So it meant a lot to me that way. But it was definitely the beginning of the Disneyfication of the Angels as a team. But I really, really loved it. I loved Danny Glover at the time a lot too. And of course, Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. To see him in this Angel performance, it was just a really just fun baseball movie as a kid.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's a great one. I said the only reason it didn't make my list because I raved about it when we were talking about Danny Glover a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I was like, I gotta give people a break from my love for Angels in the Outfield.
NYC saying good overall, and yeah, I do agree. It belongs in this group. It was tough to figure out where it would fit, but I was like, yeah, this was going here.
Yeah, we tried to keep it to 5 or 7 with our sentimental picks thrown into it because if we were doing top 10, there's some that we would not get to at all. There's not enough.
Simon R, who knows that there was an original film.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it.
I have not. So, we're gonna test Simon R's knowledge because I know he knows older movies. So I'm sure through later on in this he'll stick around and he'll let us know because I know we've thrown some older movies in too.
So did you have any trivia or move on?
No, that's it. I got more of mine on baseball because I know you're a baseball guy. So
heck yeah. All right, so here we go. I'm hearing some echo. I don't know what's going on. I'm hearing some echo.
Is it me?
I don't know what's going on.
I'm going through a computer mic, so I don't know.
Let's move on to boxing, which I know you are a big boxing fan.
I am. This was probably one of my toughest categories to narrow it down to, because we did 5 for this one because I don't think we would have had some arguments if we did 3. We would have probably had some arguments.
Well, we were also debating, like, do we count karate, mixed martial arts? Do we count anything that's not just – and then eventually we came to the conclusion that we were going to save anything not boxing for another night and focus in on boxing so that we could save, MMA or whatever for the second round.
Yeah, we were talking – if you guys watched us when we decided we were going to do sports – on the show, we said, hey, let's do a fighting category and we'll put boxing and MMA and all that all into one category. And as I'm watching this week, I'm like, we can't have boxing has to be on its own. I was like, we have to. There's going to be too many good movies not making it.
And it's hilarious that people are talking about Rocky 4 because in my head I was talking about how when I rewatch these movies, the Rocky movies, it's always 1, 2, 4. Like I just fly right over 3. 3 is like just an afterthought as I go to 4.
It's interesting. So I'll get to it when we get to the list because I have some beef with Rocky right now.
All right. Ooh, I love it. Let's get in because I see 3 here in this thumbnail. So let's see the 5 boxing movies that Greg and I agreed belong on anybody's must-watch list. And there they are. Matt is going to throw a fit because Rocky 4 didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
So what's your beef with Rocky? Let's hear it.
So here's 2 things. So let me ask you, when's the last time you watched Rocky or Rocky 2?
I've seen Rocky 1 fairly recently. I would say in the last 4 years.
Okay.
Rocky 2 might be a little longer, say 8 or 10 years. Rocky 4 I've seen very recently. So and I'll tell you what ruined Rocky 4 for me. I still love it. I still really enjoy it. When I saw Team America World Police and they have that whole sequence where it's like, what you need is a montage. Like all I pictured is Sylvester Stallone running through the snow with a giant log on his back. Like it ruined Rocky 4 is ridiculous. It's entertaining and it's a lot of fun, but it's ridiculous.
That's where that Rocky 4 is great, and I agree. I'll watch 3 though. I don't skip over it as much because I mean, come on, Thunderlips and like Mr. T and Hulk Hogan, like come on, like you can't skip over it. However, I think Rocky 4 leans into too much of the nostalgia of Rocky 1 and Rocky 2. And so doesn't. That's where I agree with you when you talk about sequels. It does not stand on its own, because if you don't watch Rocky 2, Rocky 3, and have that love for the characters, it loses any semblance of a great movie, because that's what makes it good, is because you are invested in the characters.
Well, and the death of Apollo Creed only means something if Apollo means something to you, and he doesn't mean anything to you if you don't watch 1 and 2.
Right. So that's where I think. So this is only my beef with it, because I literally watched Rocky and Rocky 2 this week back to back. I think like Wednesday night, because I was like, I knew they made the list. I'm like, I'm going to. First off, it's hard to watch movies like Creed and Creed 2, because I watched those earlier in the week, and then go and watch a Rocky or a Rocky 2, because the boxing that they've been able to figure out how to shoot a movie when it comes to boxing with like Creed is really good. If you rewatch Rocky or Rocky 2, there are so many scenes that they don't even try, that like they act like it's where they get hit and they don't like. And so from that standpoint, that's not even my beef. My beef is Rocky 1. That scene with him and Adrian in his apartment is the most cringe-worthy scene I have watched.
Where he's like all sweaty and holding his arms up over his arm.
It's like if Baby It's Cold Outside was a scene from a movie. That's it. Like, it is cringe-worthy.
I'm loving the chat right now.
Cinderella Man is another great one that
Cinderella Man, The Champ is a really underrated great movie. And of course, like even Charlie Chaplin made a boxing movie that was really good. But like for me, I felt like all of these movies meant more to me than those.
Yep.
In the end, that's what it came down to for me.
And my last beef with Rocky 2 is, and I only caught on to this because I watched them back to back. In the first movie of Rocky, if you guys haven't seen Rocky, you know Rocky he's kind of like a collector for a mob type of boss kind of in Philly, right? So he goes and breaks people's hands and stuff. He doesn't pay, but he really doesn't anyways. The driver of this mob boss in the first movie makes fun of Rocky when he starts dating Adrian, basically referring to Adrian as like a mentally challenged person. Calls her the N-word, kind of like, oh, she's the R-word. And he goes, why don't you take her to the zoo? That's where, he's like, mentally challenged people really like their time at the zoo.
Wow.
And I'm like, that, so that was like weird for me. But then in Rocky 2, he proposes to her. And where does he propose to her at? The freaking zoo. You can't have like that. Just drove me insane. Because I get it. She works at a pet shop, so she likes animals and stuff. But like, you can't have a sign where like he's literally getting ridiculed. Like, because it wasn't like Rocky's not smart enough to like, I'm gonna stick it to him. I'm gonna take her, and propose her at the zoo. Like, it just is something that I feel like is
that's very on the nose, right?
And it drove me insane watching that. I was like, I wanted to text you right there, like, are you kidding me?
We might need to change our list. So for me, like rewatching Rocky, I would say about 5-7 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
I was just struck by how much it holds up. Stallone is amazing in that he obviously he wrote to his strengths and he does a great job. But what I love about it, I love a sports movie where the hero loses. I have a lot of affinity for sports movies where the hero learns more from losing than from winning the big game. And it might have been that my dad had instilled with me the knowledge you gain from losing. But for me, it was more, I think, maybe the talent of Ron Shelton, writer director of a lot of great sports movies. Play It to the Bone is his boxing movie. Tin Cup is his golf movie. Bull Durham is his baseball movie. Ron Shelton was a minor league baseball player who didn't make it. And he became a movie writer. And he wrote movies where the hero loses the big game and yet also learns a bigger lesson. And I always felt like that was a far more interesting thing. And Rocky #1 is that for me. And it's hilarious that you talk about how Rocky 2 undermines Rocky 1, because that's the whole point of Rocky 2 is he actually wins that match that he lost in Rocky 1. And that's the reason why I think Rocky 2 is always a little bit lower to Rocky 1 in the end, because it undermines the lesson, which is that Rocky lasted all the rounds. And that was the moral victory for him. It was not beating Apollo. It was the fact that he showed Apollo was not unbeatable. He could go and last all those rounds. And so for me, it was the boxing movie that I think had more long-term effect. But again, I feel like almost like D1 and D2, I can't separate Rocky 1 and 2. I have a hard time doing that.
Yeah. And well, it's interesting that you say that, because like that shows you even in the end of Rocky, like they don't even they glance over the fact that Apollo Creed won the fight. Like you kind of have to listen in the background to like how the split decision, like it just gets straight to all he cares about is that he made it to the, and that he wants Adrian. And like, that's the part of it that is endearing to that. So
several people mentioning Warrior, and I will legitimately say I've never seen that movie.
It's going to be on one that I'm making John watch, because we are having a fighting category / miscellaneous or something. I'll just tell you guys, if you're asking, Warrior will make the list somehow, because it's
so I'll make an effort to watch that. This is a strictly boxing only category. We decided to split. We had a fighting category, which would include like Bloodsport, Karate Kid, those kind of things. But we separated and basically left boxing as its own category, and then moved fight or mixed martial arts to its own section, which will be in our second series of videos or live streams that we're making. So this is strictly boxing only. Yeah.
Right.
The chat is great. You guys are really listing some great stuff. I really appreciate you guys dropping some great stuff. The jacket with the tigers that ties on the back. Yeah. We're going to move on from Rocky because we could stay on Rocky forever. Yeah. There's some great stuff going on here. Girl Fight is a very good movie. And I have that. Michelle Rodriguez, very good movie.
It is.
But let's get into girl fighting, because I rewatched $1 Million Baby. I don't know if obviously today is August 1st and live streaming changes every month. But I believe, was it Amazon Prime or Netflix? One of them had $1 Million Baby just last month. And I rewatched it. God dang, that's a good movie. Holy cow. I mean, besides the fact that you have 3 Academy Award caliber actors, Eastwood, Freeman, and Hilary Swank, this movie is so powerful on so many levels. Whatever you feel about assisted suicide, that's a whole other layer to this movie about fathers and children. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah. It's great. It actually is one of the few I haven't rewatched lately, but I remember everything that you're saying that is resonating with me of going, yes, it is such a powerful movie. And I think that's one of those movies that like the storytelling in and of itself compels you to watch. If you are a movie fan, take out even the sports aspect, and that is Gore always is killing it with.
He's got great comments, and I love that Gore is free on Saturday nights, because when we were doing the African Americans in cinema, I was doing it only on my Instagram, and I decided, you know what, I want to bring this to YouTube because I wanted Gore, specifically this one guy, to be involved. And I was emailing him, and I was like, Gore, I'm going live. I'm doing this movie talk. Please, if you have the time, I would really. I was legitimately suckering Gore Vidal into joining the chat for movie talk. So the fact that he makes the time when we do these Saturday shows is a huge boon to us. So I appreciate you making the time, my man. But yeah, I mean, so I rewatched it. I'm a Clint Eastwood fan. I know that he's got I mean, I have a friend that worked in the film industry and worked with him and said that he's a complete misogynistic a-hole and that he is just like a complete jerk to women and horrible to work with. I'm willing to separate the art from the artist and just say, wow, the guy can direct, the guy can act, the guy can make music. He does the music for $1 Million Baby, and it's amazing. He was doing this around the same time as Mystic River, which he does all the same jobs except for the acting. The guy is talented, just top to bottom. And you watch this movie, and I think it's amazing how he can draw these amazing performances from so many people that just hit you at your core. And that happens before all the powerful assisted suicide portions at the end of the movie. I feel like you're already there. You're already invested way before that stuff. And then her accident happens, and the second quarter or the last quarter of the movie rolls around. And you are getting the gut punch that the boxers are practicing for all movie long.
Yep. That's the gut punch for you. Yep.
So sorry, people talk about Cinderella Man, and it was a great movie that came very close for me to making this list. I would say it was easily top 8 of what I was looking at. But let's move on to Raging Bull. Did you have anything you wanted to say about Martin Scorsese's, and many people say his masterpiece?
It's highly entertaining and it holds up if you haven't watched it recently. I think I feel like a lot of people sadly will just, if you haven't seen it, will discredit it alone from the stance that it's black and white. Which pains me because it still is such a great story. Robert De Niro, you have Joe Pesci, and I mean, Martin does what Martin does best. Like, he tells a story in such an engaging way. And boxing almost takes a side note to a degree, but not really. Like, it's more of a character story.
Which I would argue all of
every
these
of them
films are. Now, what makes all 5 of these movies work is not the sport. And that's true all across the board. It's not about the sport. It's about the personality of the player.
Yep. And so when we were talking, like, it was hard to not have Raging Bull in that list at all. Because I feel like the fight scenes are legit. Like,
oh my God. When De Niro throws a punch, you feel it. It's not like Rocky where you can see that they're missing each other so many times. Rocky's hand is nowhere near the actor, and the actor's moving back a little late, and you're like, it's cool. And I've watched boxing matches. Nobody actually lands contact as much as Drago and Rocky seem to land contact in Rocky IV.
Right.
But Raging Bull, I feel like you feel the hits.
Well, and I think that's what makes it and that was what, again, not knocking Rocky or Rocky 2 because it still holds up great, but that drove me insane. Of the misses, watching that, Martin Scorsese did it and he did it really well. Yeah, that's a great comment. I was in that category though in high school. I was like, I won't watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon because it had subtitles, and then I did. I'm like,
Doesn't matter. Hero is better.
It is.
I freaking love Hero. I was like, if you're going Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, don't miss Hero with Jet Li. That movie's freaking fire.
So TJ came in late. He said Mighty Ducks is in our number 1. He's going to flip.
Yeah, let's. Only for TJ would I do this. TJ, what we've done is break down our favorite sports movies by sport. We're in the boxing section. We've already talked about Mighty Ducks when we did the kid sports sections. Mighty Duck was awesome. We combined it with Mighty Duck 2 as if to sort of say they go together. But now we're into the boxing section. We combined Rocky and Rocky 2 because they do sort of go together. And we're into Raging Bull right now. And the one comment I want to make is people like Perry that maybe have only known De Niro as Meet the Parents or whatever in his later career, this role in Raging Bull, I feel like you can't understate the evolution of this performance. Yep. And he goes from legitimately one of the most ripped boxer physiques to one of the most just overweight and out of shape former athletes. It's an evolution I can only compare to maybe Tom Hanks in Castaway or something. Like it is such a physical growth. Besides all the physicality he does as an actor, just that simple and powerful physical change, you cannot overstate it.
Because you don't see that happen very often in a movie. You see it happen over like the span of like an actor with a different role, or or if Endgame, with the I can say that, right? Now Perry's watched them all.
He's seen them all. You're good.
So, well, real funny, since we're on Raging Bull, you mentioned him, Robert De Niro. Here's your next trivia, John. Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese teamed up for Raging Bull.
Yes.
How many other movies have they teamed up for? And can you name them if you can? I'll just go with the number, but what can you name? How many movies? In chat, you can chime in too. How many movies has Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese?
Well, obviously, Taxi Driver, Irishman, Casino.
Yep.
Those are easy.
And then Raging Bull, so that's 4.
And Raging Bull, so that's 4. Mean Streets would be 5.
Yep.
That's where I'm going to be stymied. Let me think for a little bit.
So you said
Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, The Irishman, and Casino. Okay. Goodfellas would be 6.
Yep.
Crap. He's not in The Departed. That's a huge cast, but he's not in there. Some of those movies, I'm not sure. Like, I know he's not in The Aviator.
Right.
Hoffa? Is he in Hoffa anywhere? Is he stuffed in there somewhere?
Now, these
are those guys, they throw. Okay.
I'll give you a hint. There's 3 more.
There's 3 more? Holy crap. Dang. I will honestly say I don't love Martin Scorsese, so I have not seen a ton of his movies. I think he's overrated like Woody Allen in the sense that like there are iconic movies, but there are also movies that are like way blown out of proportion.
Okay.
And so I kind of put he and Woody Allen on the same tier for me, where I love certain movies. I think Casino is just straight trash. I think Casino is a trash movie and does not deserve to be on the list with Goodfellas. And Mean Streets is so much better than fucking Casino, and nobody talks about Mean Streets. They all talk about Casino. That's trash. I'm just going to be that guy that says Mean Streets is so much better.
This is your show. We can do whatever we want.
I saw Mean Streets in college, and I was like, why do people not talk about this movie? It is so freaking good. And so, anyways, okay. Other movies, crap.
Man, no one in the chat's helping you out either. I thought Gore would.
I'm glad. I don't want to cheat my way through this. There's 3 other.
3 more.
Oh my god!
Don't look at the chat then, because chat's chiming in.
Is he in Kundun? No, he can't be in that.
Simon R got one.
Damn. I'm just trying to think of great Scorsese. Is he in Gangs of New York? Damn, give me one that I will never get. There's got to be one that's like impossible.
New York.
Yeah, I would never have gotten that.
I would never have gotten.
Yeah, so never.
I had the benefit of one.
New York. Jesus, I don't know that I've ever even seen that one. That's the one that's the musical, right?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, Gore's confirming.
Oh! There's the one about the comedian Lenny Bruce, right? Is he in that one? Lenny?
Kings of Comedy.
Or Kings of Comedy. But didn't he do Lenny as well?
I don't remember. So Kings of Comedy, which is funny because then there was a lot of comparisons with the Joker because of that.
Yeah.
And then Simon R and Gore have got your last one.
So I'll just go to them. Cape Fear. Yeah, crap. Cape Fear. I honestly like the original better. I'm sorry, guys. I like the original Cape Fear better.
So I was like, oh, that's a fun, because I was looking, because originally it was going to be how many movies did Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci do together, because they were in a lot too.
They did a bunch. Connie, thank you for coming by, Connie. I really do appreciate it. You are awesome. Gore Vidal says, Raging Bull lost the Oscar to Ordinary People. It wasn't well received. I understand. I do appreciate Raging Bull. I have a soft spot for Ordinary People, and it might be that I'm a WASP and not an Italian American, and so maybe there's just something there. Ordinary People, I think, is still a great movie. I don't know that I could pick a better film, Ordinary People or Raging Bull. I think they are both amazing. But I don't hate on Ordinary People like a lot of people. I think it's still a really good movie, and it makes me cry. Like, I get worked up over that movie. Manhattan, Hannah and Her Sisters. Hey, there's some Woody Allen chat going on. Mm-hmm. We got to figure out where we're going with this show, by the way, chat. I'm going to put this on you at the 1 hour mark, because we're going really slowly through this list. I want to put this on you, chat. If you're watching this, after sports movies, we don't know where Saturday night's drinks and movies is going. We thought about animation. We thought about romantic comedies. There's a lot of room in the world of movies to go. So leave a comment. Let us know, where should we take this show after this?
Because as obviously we're not even halfway through, and we're talking nonstop about movies we love. So we can do this no matter what. But
all day.
We would like you guys to join in on us and with us and watch. And
maybe we make this 2 more live streams about sports, because clearly we're going this slow. We need to like make more room. Let's jump to The Fighter, which I know you saw for the first time this week.
First time this week. It's somehow, which is crazy. I was telling you, I can't believe it. I'm an addict for anything Oscar related. I'm an addict for anything, Oscar nominated, and boxing movies right up there. Like, this is my wheelhouse. So I don't know why. But man, oh man, you want to talk about a movie where the sports really is a side piece to the movie. The Fighter is such, and I mean, watching it for the first time, I'm also a sucker for, based on a true story, or whatever the term that you want to say, loosely based or whatever, elements could be true. But
which is true of like 4 out of the 5 box movies here. $1 Million movie, legitimately the only one not based on any kind of story.
Yeah, which is crazy to me, because what I think The Fighter does better than most of the movies on this list is, I think it does maybe not $1 Million, but it's the character development of everybody, not just the main person. I mean, and you see that even in that, like, Mark Wahlberg is supposed to be the main actor, and he kind of is overlooked by, obviously, Christian Bale. His role is fantastic, and Amy Adams, like, they're all so well. But I think what this is just such a powerful tale of how close family, can be, but also how toxic families can be, and how unhealthy relationships and stuff. And like, I'm watching this movie, and I'm like screaming in my head, like, you guys got to read Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud. Like, you need that book in your life. Like, you guys need to cut people off. Like, this is horrible. And this is probably one of the first comic shows where Dr. Henry Cloud's book been mentioned. But
yeah, I mean, I'm a big David O. Russell fan.
Yeah.
And I think his movies are, I mean, we mentioned Three Kings when we were talking about Ice Cube. I like David O. Russell a bunch. Spanking the Monkey. I mean, he's done so many great movies, and I know he sounds like a really beast of a guy to deal with. There's a story about George Clooney punching him out on the set of Three Kings because he was berating the extras so extremely and so vehemently that George Clooney socked him. George Clooney's like, shut the F up, you're horrible. But he makes these intense films. And you mentioned it. I mean, this movie boils down to Bale and Wahlberg. Like, those two. Adams is hugely important as well, but the characters drive The Fighter. It's a great movie to watch for those dynamics. And I think it really just plays off of the talent of Bale, and he elevates Wahlberg to a whole new level. Because you watch, I watched that horrible Shyamalan film with Wahlberg, and you're like, this guy's a horrible actor. And then you watch The Fighter, and you're like, wait, what happened to this guy? And I think it's director, writer, and co-actors who elevate somebody like a Wahlberg, and he comes out of The Fighter looking like this huge talent.
Yeah, it's great, and I don't want to spend too much time because we keep this train rolling. But I really want to, and I don't know. Have you watched the HBO documentary?
I'm gonna sock me some. I got issues. Don't make me jokes about this. The Happening is straight fire garbage. That movie's a shitstorm. I'm just gonna say that on my channel where I rarely swear. I'm gonna show that's a shitstorm. That movie's a shitstorm.
Yeah, I want to watch the documentary HBO did that they talk about in the movie, based off of, because I'm intrigued now. It looks like just such a cluster, and I want to see that.
It is probably a perfect Mystery Science Theater kind of a movie.
I didn't want to call you out, but Comic Books is calling you out. That's twice now in one stream.
It's all right. Are you talking about NYC or are you talking about issue?
NYC.
NYC's calling me out. Where did he say it?
It says right underneath the one you highlighted. It says you've done it twice now on YouTube. One night, this is big.
YouTube on twice one night, this is big. Yeah, hey. What are you doing?
I bring out the best in people.
Happy deserves an Oscar. John Leguizamo, Best Supporting Actor. Hilarious. We got to move on. We got to get this shows. We're stagnating here. I'm sorry, folks. We've been on boxing for too long. Sentimental pick. Talk about Creed.
Again, I thought I liked Rocky Balboa. I thought it was a good one. And I thought Creed. I remember when Creed came out, I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, we don't need this. This is gonna. And I thought it did a very good job of tying in the stories which felt natural to me. The boxing was actually legit. And if you haven't watched our other streams, I am a huge fan of Michael B. Jordan. And I think that guy, I feel like I was listening to a podcast actually where someone was saying, Kevin Feige, they saw Kevin Feige at the premiere of Creed. And then all of a sudden you see him in Black Panther. I'm like, does Kevin Feige just go to movies and I'm going to put him in my Marvel movie because he's good.
Anybody who watches Fruitvale Station, Black Panther, and Creed is going to really realize this guy can act. Man, this guy is the real deal.
Yes. So, John, we've got to have a scrolling bar so we don't have to keep repeating ourselves.
Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. So the way we're doing this is we're breaking it down by sport. Football will be in our second live stream. Tonight, we're breaking it down by, we did kids sports. We're on boxing. You're going to hear about Olympics, soccer, and we're going to finish with baseball tonight. No worries. Hey, Chris, you are one of the original homies of this channel and one of my original friends in this community. You show up whenever you want, brother. You do whatever you want.
But this is why we're heading almost an hour, 10 minutes, and we're still on.
We're only on the second of 5 categories.
So this is why we have to break it up, guys. Because John and I are we just know each other too well. We're no, we're going to talk about these.
It's going to happen. We're getting to foosball. Yeah, no foosball tonight, my friend.
Well, it depends on what country you're from.
And, hey. Having watched Hooligans now, I know that I don't want to call it soccer.
So
can I move on to my sentimental?
I thought it exceeded my expectations. So,
and again, wow, what a great way to build on the Rocky mythos, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I picked Power of One, and this was a movie that cemented my wife and I's friendship. She showed me this movie. So if you haven't seen it, this is a movie set in Africa. It has to do with apartheid, and you really get. Morgan Freeman with a great early performance. I don't know how to explain it. So Stephen Dorff plays this young Englishman growing up in South Africa during apartheid, during the 30s into 40s, dealing with being a white gentleman, but also having connections to what's sort of going on during World War II in South Africa. And he learns to box by being taught by this young African gentleman, older than him, Morgan Freeman. And Morgan Freeman teaches him to box. Power of One is a hugely underappreciated and underenjoyed Morgan Freeman film. Morgan, I don't want to say he steals the movie, but he is legit one of the great performances in this movie. Armin Mueller-Stahl, John Gielgud. There's a lot of other great actors, but for me, it comes down to Stephen Dorff and Morgan, and it's a powerful look at race. It's a powerful look at the issues of World War II and apartheid. But boxing is the sport that kind of is all these social issues funnel through it.
I need to see it. That's one that I haven't seen.
So the year. I had the film brought up here earlier. It's from 1992, based on a book from '89.
Okay.
Set in South Africa during World War II. Yeah, I did all that. Director is John Avildsen. But I just really, it's a moving film. And I don't think it's streaming anywhere. I don't know that they even have it on Blu-ray. You got to buy the DVD, the old DVD version. But if you're a Morgan Freeman fan, this is a film you might have missed. And again, you get World War II, you get South Africa apartheid, and yet somehow it's all about boxing. And who knew that Stephen Dorff could freaking act? Like Stephen Dorff, who is like an epic fail in so many movies. Like you would see Stephen Dorff's name on a poster and be like, I'm going to pass. I'm just going to pass.
Right. Chris, help me out. I got issues. You said that's Chris?
Yes.
Help me out. I remember seeing that movie. I can't remember what it is. The Miles Teller.
Oh, movie. Miles Teller's boxing movie. Yeah, it's not that Southpaw was the
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, the Miles Teller was just a few years ago. I can't remember the name.
All right, someone let us know in the chat.
Yeah, basketball will be in our second.
I think if I know Jeffrey, I think he's asking what category would basketball be in. The Trey Parker.
We're planning on having a miscellaneous category. Basically,
I'm assuming that's what Jeffrey's talking about is basketball.
Yeah, he's talking about basketball. Basically saying, is this a sport? And we will throw a bunch of movies into a melting pot and just basically say, is that a sport? I don't know. Is it? And basketball could legitimately be in that category.
Is that a sport?
So I'm going to move us on. But again, Power of One, if they ever stream it, it's a great movie. Let's move on to soccer. What I always think of when I hear the word soccer is the guy in Cliffhanger when he's about to kick what's his name in the face. Soccer, it's a great sport, and he's gonna kick Yondu in the face. This is pre Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a wonderful list of soccer movies, and I will say I've seen only half of the movies on that list. Maybe.
Yeah.
This was the hardest one for me because I legitimately. There it's called Bleed for this. Thank you.
This was a tough category for us.
Oh my God. There are so few good soccer movies, and I've seen maybe half of those.
Yeah. It's frustrating just because it should work more. But it doesn't. Like I will say I do love I had to put Fever Pitch on.
I've seen the American version of Fever Pitch, and I've read the book. But I've never seen the British version.
Right. So, because the American version, everyone knows that Jimmy Fallon, where he's the Boston Red Sox fan.
Baseball. They made a baseball version of Fever Pitch
because no one could relate to Colin First Love for I think it was Arsenal.
Right. Because and then the hilarious thing is the Red Sox win the World Series the year they're freaking making Fever Pitch a baseball movie. It's supposed to be about a team that never wins, and the freaking Red Sox win.
Yeah, and there's a lot that probably made the list, and we'll talk about that. Could have made the list, like Escape to Victory or stuff that I just haven't seen. So I can't put something on a list if I haven't seen it. And so
I felt the same, and I tried to limit it to just the soccer films I knew and loved.
Yeah.
So let's. This is going to be a faster one than
Don't worry, guys. Just hang in there with us.
So
we'll be in and out real quick here.
These are the three that we agreed upon, and really, I think I'm the only one that saw one of these, right?
You saw The Damned United. I have not seen that one. I watched the trailer, and it looked really good.
I don't think I've seen any of those since Comics for Blame. Hey, it's soccer, and we live in America, and that's probably part of the reason. I want to see The Mean Machine. I hear it's really good. I hear it's in a British version of The Longest Yard, the Burt Reynolds film. But I haven't seen it. I looked for it. None of my libraries had it, and it's not streaming anywhere. So I tried to get The Mean Machine. I heard very good things. But of course, for me, like the tip of the spear, the tip of the pyramid has to be Bend It Like Beckham, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is it's your classic coming of age story, but like, it was before Keira Knightley was popular. She was a side actress in that, compared to the main lead, and I don't know her name for the life of me.
It's Pira Parma Martin.
Yeah,
I'm already gonna mess it up.
But yeah, it was. I mean, if you're talking about like sports movies story wise, like Bend It Like
Arminder Nagra. I'm gonna mess that up. That's my best guess at it. But she was. I remember seeing her on ER afterwards. Yep. Like this was her film that kind of like launched her fame. Yeah.
So you talk about, because I want to check something on that. So talk about Bend It.
So Bend It Like Beckham for me, I saw it in the theater. Everybody was talking about what a great movie it was, and it again, the theme of the night might be that the best films in any sport are the ones that are not about the game. The game is the secondary piece to great character story. So here we have Indian culture and the idea that a girl has a certain role to play in Indian culture, and yet might also have inclinations outside of that. And so here you have this young girl having a love for a sport that she's not really allowed to play, that her family upbringing is restricting for her. Even though her father encourages it, the father is one of my favorite parts in the film. Encourages her to play, encourages and sort of fans this flame. The mother, of course, wanting her to be a good Indian woman and get married and have a family and do the things that an young Indian woman is supposed to do. And instead, she's got the fever, the soccer fever, right? And the relationship between her good friend, the Keira Knightley character, that whole story is so beautifully done. And as a dad of girls, like this means more to me now than it even did when I saw it originally.
Same.
Would Uncut Gems be a basketball movie? These are great questions that we dealt with, because we're going to talk about Green Street Hooligans here at the end, which I ended up voting is not a sports movie, but we can get to that. So
we'll talk about it, because we're not going to spend too much other. I mean,
we're going to rush through the soccer.
Kicking and Screaming made the list. Will Ferrell movie made the list of a great sports movie.
Right.
And I mean, it's enjoyable. It's fun for what it is. I think if it was any other category, that Sal movie would not have made the list.
No way.
Any other category, we were hurting.
Yeah, I mean, I like Kicking and Screaming, but it's not even top 5 Will Ferrell.
No.
I would put a ton of other Will Ferrell movies above Kicking and Screaming, but we're talking soccer, and it works for this. The Duvall character, the back and forth is good.
Right. So Simon said Ladybugs with Rodney, and Jonathan Brandis was in that movie. I haven't seen it in so long that I remember enjoying it as a kid. I just haven't revisited it, so I couldn't justify putting it in there just from that aspect. I also feel like that's borderline for something where if there were parts where Rocky made me cringeworthy, a movie where Jonathan Brandis dresses up and tries to play on a girls' soccer team, I'm probably gonna go, "Oh, this is crazy." Like,
Yeah, exactly.
so I like, which Jonathan Brandis.
We're dealing with a category where Greg said, "I only saw the trailer, but let's count that movie."
I did. I literally said I haven't seen the Damn United, but the trailer looked good, so let's put it on. So that's
and
why
I'll speak about Damned United. I think it's a really good movie about coaches and managers. It's the money ball of soccer. I think there's a lot of interesting elements to deal with how to coach and how to manage a professional team. It's about the infighting, and I think I enjoyed it for the performances. Again, the soccer takes a back seat to the behind the scenes stuff, just like in Moneyball and baseball, where it's less about the game and more about the wheeling and dealing behind the scenes that makes it work. And I like Michael Sheen a lot. He's just super talented. And so I enjoyed it. Made the list by proxy in a lot of ways, but so did Kicking and Screaming. It was Bend It Like Beckham. And then
it's probably the only legit.
What else can I throw in here? I've never seen Victory with Stallone and Michael Caine. Never seen it.
Neither have I.
So I need to see this. I know Gore Vidal that it's supposed to be great, and a lot of people mentioned it. I should see it. Some people saying they need to see. Yeah, Kavi's a horrible person. We already know that. I think I saw a soccer movie about Pele. Says NYC. There you go. And it might have been.
I don't remember. I think they made a documentary. I don't know. There could have been. And that was one thing we said in this when we were doing sports is we didn't want to do a documentary. We could do movies that are based off of true people, but we didn't want it to be a documentary. And I don't know. There could be one that's not a documentary on Pele, but so let's go to the sentimental pick. The Big Green. I mean, we are talking kids sports movies, and shame on you guys for not. Some of you, I don't think any of you guys put that in the chat, like calling us out. I would have called us out on it, but
Ham is back.
What?
Ham is back.
Yeah. And it's one of those, it just is. I mean, it's everything that if you love those kids' sports movies, it fits right in there with it. And so the other sentimental pick
Sorry, I'm not having trouble. I'm like flickering my finger.
The other sentimental pick that would have made it, but we deemed it not a sports movie, a soccer movie, was Green Street Hooligans. And I think someone else in the chat said that.
Yeah, I saw several people actually mention Green Street Hooligans. I didn't realize what a popular movie Green Street Hooligans is. Doomed and Confused. So I went to my library and I got Green Street Hooligans and I watched it this week because I was like, I hear a lot of people talking about it. It's a soccer movie. I watched it. This is not a soccer movie. I'm sorry. I disqualified it for me because I looked at it and I said it's got one soccer match that you see for like 10 minutes and the rest of the movie is other stuff.
Yeah. So it plays such an integral.
It felt like calling Casino a sports movie because they bet on sports. Like it felt disingenuous.
I was trying to think of what to compare it to because you can't have Green Street Hooligans without soccer without mentioning it because it's what it hinges on of the clubs that, support their own certain teams. And but I don't know what you would compare it to at all, but it's a guilty pleasure for me. I still like it. I think I've hyped it up a little bit more. I was telling John off camera in my head after rewatching it, but I still think was Elijah Wood. Like it just is a. Charlie Hunnam right before he was
Charlie Hunnam as
his Sons of Anarchy,
normal British accent. Yeah. Like that was like really cool, and it was a good. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but it didn't feel like a sports movie. And yeah, we mentioned a lot of these great kids movies.
Yeah, Carlito, you're gonna have to watch that the first part.
Come back later at the end and watch the beginning. We talked just about kids sports movies, and some of these movies definitely came up. Rookie of the Year.
Yep, it's on there. I'm excited, John. I picked your sentimental pick.
This is hilarious. I laughed when I saw the slide for this.
All right, so chat, you guys get to pick his pick.
I do not have a sentimental soccer pick. I legitimately thought about picking a Cliffhanger because the guy talks about soccer and kicks the guy in the face. Like I couldn't. Soccer. There's not that many good soccer films, and I certainly haven't seen even half of them. And we talked about Goal. the film,
Yep.
the trilogy that I've never seen, and I couldn't find any copies of that to watch either. And I hear it's really good.
Goal is good. And
We're
I
going to
probably
be
should have
extra innings for sure.
it should have made the list. It should have made the list in some degree because it actually is a good movie. I think I've lumped Goal in with the other 2-3 movies, which are just I've done the reverse. But
Right.
so I've never actually seen Shaolin Soccer, and when we were talking about this, I know a lot of people I think on your morning show were chiming in with that, and I was like, "Holy cow! I didn't even think about that." And
I did not even know about it, so for me, it was like way off of the charts for me.
So I think that's your movie, or Victory. I think Victory should be one.
I think Victory is probably going to be the one that I end up watching. Yeah. Although it sounds like Craig69 saying Shaolin Soccer best ever, which is all in caps and kind of makes me want to maybe throw that in the list. But let's move on to our next category, which is the Olympics.
There we go for Jeffrey, who was asking where does Cool Runnings.
Jeffrey wants to know about certain stories from the Olympics, and definitely they have. We basically crafted their own category. Lots of great movies center around training for the Olympics or competing in the Olympics, whether they're true stories like I, Tonya, whether they are fiction stories like Cutting Edge. You have a lot of great sort of fertile soil to grow powerful stories in the Olympics.
Carlito has probably the third best comment of the night.
Castaway is best soccer film. It's a volleyball, buddy. It's a volleyball.
But the joke is there. It counts.
The joke is there, but it's a volleyball.
That's why I said it's the third best.
Third best. Yeah. Fair. So I will legitimately say I went back and watched Chariots of Fire because I had not seen it in like 20 years. Yep. Just so that I could say, is it worthy of being on this list? I also rented Eddie the Eagle because I'd never seen it. And I watched it twice in 24 hours because my wife wanted to watch it. She's like, how dare you watch a Hugh Jackman movie without me? He is a beautiful man and I want to see everything he does. I think she said something like that. So I watched it twice in 24 hours just to make sure, does it belong on this list?
So real quick, because we talked about this, we know it's going to come up. Doomed and Confused already said it in the chat. Miracle, yes, is a Olympic movie through and through. We're going to place it in a hockey category. I'm just going to tell you, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Miracle. There's not enough good hockey movies in the world. There just aren't. It's like it's the soccer on ice, right? Like it's just.
I'm not. That's John talking right there, chat. I'm just gonna say I think there's some movies that hockey that we're gonna have some talks about hockey. So
absolutely.
We wanted to say that.
I feel like Miracle is going to end up. It has to end up in the hockey category for us because I feel like we need more.
Yeah.
So I saved Miracle from the Olympics category, moved it to the hockey category just because I was worried I would not have enough. But let's talk about our top three Olympics films. The 3 picks we agreed on. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Why don't we just go down the list? Why don't you talk about
I am addicted to Without Limits. I think it's one of those movies that can't be talked about enough. And I know it's for whatever reason, Hollywood gets it in their head to do 2 of the same movie. You know, you get your Ants and you get your Bugs Life, right? You get your Armageddon, you get your Deep Impact. They did Pre and they did Without Limits in the same freaking year. And I would happily throw Pre in the garbage to watch Without Limits 1,000 more times. Now, I'm biased because it's written by the same guy that wrote Chinatown and directed by the same gentleman. Robert Towne does an amazing job with Without Limits, but it's Billy Crudup. It's Donald Sutherland. It's the way they construct the story around Steve Prefontaine, this Olympic runner. And yet again, it comes back to the idea that a sports movie is best when the guy doesn't or the gal doesn't win the big game. And what I love about Without Limits is that Steve Prefontaine, spoiler alert, never won an Olympic medal. And and he was an incredible athlete. And the story is riveting because he doesn't win. And the tragedy of him not winning is the most powerful part of the whole thing.
Yeah. And I'm just go with that. Like, it's so good from that.
I could talk about Without Limits all day. I mean, it is,
and I know you could. So I was like, I'm gonna give you that platform.
I mean, you have the history of Nike and the birth of those running shoes mixed with this athlete Prefontaine, and I think it's just so good. Don't worry, Doomed and Confused. We'll get to golf next time. Golf is on the list for next time.
It's because I got issues asked if Happy Gilmore's a hockey movie.
No, it's not. It's a golf movie.
Correct,
And we discussed Munich as a sport or not. I chose to say, like Green Street Hooligans, not a sports movie.
I did still slip in a little Olympic movie poster that none of you guys caught.
So for me, I mean, if you've never seen Without Limits, I would say it's one of those movies you should definitely make time for. I like Billy Crudup, the actor. He's perfect as Prefontaine. If you don't cry listening to Donald Sutherland's eulogy, there's something wrong with you. There's just something wrong with you. It is such a powerful moment, and Donald Sutherland is such a great actor. So I love Without Limits. It's easily the best on this list. I would watch it over all of these. There it is right here. It's right here in the front row. It's a great movie. You want to do Without Limits, or do you want to move on to one of the Cool Runnings?
I'm okay. I mean, I can't. Anything I say is going to be filler because you crushed it.
Go to Cool Runnings then, man.
Yeah. So there are. I mean, the Unbroken was another one that I thought about. I joked that I put Richard Jewell because it revolves around the Atlanta Olympics.
This is Simon R. with a great list, and I will legitimately say I've never seen the movie Race about
Jesse Owens.
But it's on my list that I need to watch. After studying Olympic movies, I need to find a copy of that and watch it.
So to keep Jeffrey happy in the chat, we got to move on to Cool Runnings because that is another one of the most quoted movies in my vocabulary. I mean, they're quoting it in the chat. Again, it goes down to what you're talking about of movies where they don't win, sports movies where they don't win. I mean, they win in a sense, but they don't win. Like, they win everyone's respect, but it's like, hey, you still don't win. And it just is a fun movie. It's one of those I've rewatched. It's at least on a yearly rotation that I will pop in Cool Runnings easily, at least once a year. And it is just an entertaining movie from the get-go. Like I said, I made jokes. They're all joking about it in the chat, and they're quoting it, and kiss my lucky egg, and, draw a line down your head and then make it a butt. And, it's so just entertaining, and it tugs on the heartstrings, for a Disney movie, of like when that, I'm blanking on his name, but when he's standing in the mirror and they're talking and he's like, tell me what you see. I see pride. I see power. I see so don't take no crap off of nobody, right? Like, and then he says that to his dad. You're like, and then he rips off the shirt, and it's like the Team Jamaica shirt at the end. You're just like, yes, that's so good.
I love John Candy.
Yeah.
I mean, his little cameo in Home Alone is so beautiful. But for me, it's Planes, Trains, right? It's Cool Runnings, which is just it's beautiful. He is just one of those guys that, rest in peace. He has such an imprint on my love of comedy drama, and in Cool Runnings, Uncle Buck, and I can't give him enough credit for having an impact on me. And he is perfect as the coach of this team.
Yep.
And I absolutely love it. Yeah, Uncle Buck. There it is. See, even people know. John Candy, Planes, Trains, Uncle Buck, and Cool Runnings are my my John Candy trifecta, and I can't say enough about it. It's just a great it's underdogs, right? We talk a lot in sports movies about the underdog, and it's an American iconic kind of element. You cheer for the guys that have no chance, and they're just trying to prove something to themselves, to their families, to their country, or whatever. And that's what all three of these movies, I think, have in common, is that underdog spirit.
Which is a great transition into Chariots of Fire.
I will say, so it's the only movie this whole selection that I paid to rewatch. I paid the $3 or $2.99 or whatever it is on Amazon so that I could watch this. And damn you, Vangelis, and your soundtrack. I was instantly brought to mind of Blade Runner, and it's like Vangelis and their musical soundtracks.
But that's a great point.
It almost ruins the movie now, but it made the movie back then. It's so like cheesy 80s techno. But I realized rewatching it, what I didn't realize watching it the first time, that Chariots of Fire is all about religion. And it's about these guys, this one extremely Christian gentleman who won't even race on a Sunday and has to forego. Can you imagine an Olympic athlete foregoing a preliminary event because it was on a Sunday? And then you have the Jewish athlete who is being judged on their religion by his college. These two gentlemen and their religion, and how their religion affects their ability to compete. What a powerful idea. And again, the sport playing a secondary role to these gentlemen and themselves.
It's like, it's a Chick-fil-A of sports movies, right? Not open on Sunday.
Right?
But, I mean, you mentioned the score. I mean, if you're going to talk about an iconic score, or you can't hear that and not just get like, brings you to it. But it's interesting you talk about the religion aspect of it. It wasn't shot. I forget what the college takes place at, but it actually wasn't shot at that college because they didn't want them to shoot there because they were afraid of it would come off as a very anti-Semitic movie. And so they're like, we don't want to. And then they're like, after they saw how well it was done, they're like, wow. I actually have a video of me running the court somewhere when I went over and visited, because it was shot at a different college over in London. And I went over there and visited, and I couldn't find it. And I probably saved the chat from having to see a horrible reenactment of that movie.
I think it, for me, what I was really struck by, what made it, cemented it on this list, was the religion and the powerful moment when one of the athletes says, he's on his way to Paris to run in the Olympics, and he says, I'm not going to compete. Like, I'm out. You put an event on Sunday and I'm not going to run. And what a powerful statement about where this athlete puts his value system, which is, I'm not that religious, but the power and strength of his belief is beautiful. And so for me, it made the list because I was so struck by that athlete's convictions.
Well, and I think that's the beautiful thing about, whatever it is, your convictions, your faith, your values, where it's like you said, you don't see that spanning. You wouldn't see that happening in today, like, for whatever reason, but it gets you in the movie and it still holds up to it. And you're like, whether you agree with them or not, whether you agree with someone's, religious views, at least you can respect that aspect, I think, of it, of like, okay, I respect your, belief in that, or I respect your stance that this is where you're staking. Like, and I think that draws you in as a viewer.
Great question, Jeffrey. It's going to end up, I think, Cars or Days of Thunder fall into that. Is it a sport category? For sure. It is Days of Thunder. Hello to Lost in Comics and Comic Book Poser, and we appreciate you guys coming by and hanging out with us. We're on Olympic sports movies, and we're about to get into baseball movies, but first, both of us have a sentimental Olympics pick. A movie from the Olympics that we feel like is worthy of being remembered. Ooh, I didn't even think of Gallipoli. So, of course, Gore Vidal elevating our show. Whenever I rewatch Gallipoli, I think about the opening scene when the young man who is an Olympic material runs like a leopard and a gentleman of young men lost in an awful war. Gallipoli is a great war movie. Early Mel Gibson. And wow, I didn't even think of it as an Olympic film, and I will maybe need to rewatch it just to see the connection. Because I know it's a tenuous connection.
I think that's the beauty of these. That's the beauty of these lists, right? There's so many movies that, like, we're gonna miss something, we're not gonna remember to see something, and that's what's beautiful of, like, why we appreciate you guys hanging with us in the chat and saying, like, hey, what about this? Because I'm telling you, I have a list of some movies that you guys have said, and I'm like, I forgot about Shaolin Soccer. I forget, I haven't seen Victory. There, I'm putting Power of One on there from your, like, so I'm kind of like, I need to still watch these lists. So this is just as much for me.
I'm just writing stuff down and keeping track of the chat. And this is one of those shows that I think whenever we do this show every other Saturday or whatever, I think Greg and I are going to really be valuing you and the audience bringing so much to this show. So I appreciate the group of you who've hung out with us tonight. It's awesome. But let's get to Greg's sentimental pick from Olympics. We have Foxcatcher.
Oh, so you guys, I said earlier in the chat, if you guys haven't, I have an affinity for wrestling. Like, high school, college, I coached high school wrestling here in Ohio for 8 years. So when they made a legit serious movie about wrestling, and I took it from the aspect, like, if you watch Foxcatcher, this is a powerful story. If you've never seen Foxcatcher, like, I'm not even going to tell you, I'm not going to spoil anything because I want you to just see it. I think the story in and of itself is so powerful, and it's so buck wild. Like, I remember watching it it was when I made my wife watch me, and she goes, where did they come up with this idea? I'm like, this is this really happened. And it's so, and to see Steve Carell in that role, I thought because as someone who is obsessed with The Office, to be able to see him in a role that is completely different from it, complete 180, it is Steve Carell. Yes, he's scary in the film, and the guy in real life was scary. Like, I mean, it's, for a Channing Tatum movie to be so high up on a list for me, like, that tells you what I feel. And, Mark Ruffalo's in it, who is great. But it's based on a true story of Olympic wrestlers, two brothers, who both are Olympic gold medalist winners. Super cool story. If you haven't seen Fox, like I said, I'm not going to go into anything. Watch it. And ESPN, if you don't want to even spend, even ESPN, they did a 30 for 30 documentary on it, which is a really intriguing one too. It just is one of those stories that the story captures you, and then Mark Ruffalo and Steve Carell give very well done performances. So there was no way I was not going to talk about an Olympic movie that involved wrestling in my wheelhouse. And
I think, Hulk is in it, Jeffrey. Hulk is in it. It reminds me of like an HBO documentary on sports. I think it's really powerful. I'm a big fan of the director. Bennett Miller is the director. He did Moneyball. He did Capote, which I think is a great film as well. He does these sort of intimate, dramatic films about characters at the edge of their talent, like really excelling to the edge of their talent. And Foxcatcher is, so I saw it when it originally was nominated for all those Oscars. Mm-hmm. And then I watched it again maybe a year or two ago. And it's a hard to watch movie. It is not an easy movie.
No.
If most of these Olympic films are like jump out of your seat cheer, this is like crouch into a corner and cower. This film is about the darker corners, and it's a harder to watch movie, but it is powerful. And all three performances, Channing Tatum, Ruffalo, and Carell, are top notch. Like all three of them.
I don't think there's a better performance of Channing's performance. I'm trying to go through. I'd be hard pressed.
Magic
Mike 2 might be up there. Like
it's like right there.
But I mean, I think you see it too as also like the aspect of an Olympic athlete, what they have to go through of like, you know, the opening scene of like where they're like, oh, he's going to do an appearance for $20 because this is their life, and they have to train to be Olympic athletes, but they're not, you know, they're not the dream team, you know, and I feel like it's probably the same for a lot of other athletes. And I think that's a compelling aspect too, because I think that plays a critical part of the show and the movie. So yeah.
Mo is with you. Thanks
Mo's
for
my dude.
He's saying it was awesome. Carell. So we're finishing our discussion of Olympics. And we're finishing with our sentimental picks, those films that really meant a lot to us. I'm going to move on to mine if you're cool with that.
Go for it.
I watched this movie twice in 24 hours. I still don't understand why this movie was maligned. I guess people felt like it was cliched, but screw cliche. This is a true story. And I was even shocked to learn that this story of Eddie the Eagle took place at the exact same Winter Olympics as Cool Runnings. So Eddie is a little kid growing up in England who dreams of being an athlete in the Olympics, but has a leg brace, like we're talking Forrest Gump style leg brace. No chance of being an athlete. His dad is like, just come and be a construction worker with me, do plaster work with me. You can be happy and have a career. But Eddie wants to be an athlete. He tries throwing a javelin in his backyard. He tries everything. Eventually he finds downhill skiing and makes the top 14 in England, but still can't make the Olympic team because the Olympic Association in England tells him you are not Olympic material. Heartbreaking moment for Eddie. And Eddie then learns about ski downhill jumping. These guys who bomb 90 meters and then launch themselves through the air to try to catch a certain distance. And I think this is what spurns him to realize he could do something that no one in England has ever done. The last British Olympian to do ski jumping was in 1929. And his name is Eddie Edwards, by the way, which is phenomenal. Eddie decides he's going to learn in 1 year how to jump into the Olympics, because all he has to do is break a certain basic record, a really tiny amount, and he gets to go to the Olympics, which is his world dream. Like, he doesn't want to get a medal. He just wants to go. And so the whole movie is it's never, the best part about it is in the first 20 minutes, you know that this goal of this movie is not for him to win a freaking gold medal. The goal is just to get there, to be at the show, right? To play in the big game. So I'm going to talk about what I believe Issues is talking about. Taron Egerton, the gentleman from the Kingsman and Rocket Man, plays Eddie. He's amazing. He is so good. He does this overbite thing, the underbite thing. He does this like physicality. And he and Hugh Jackman, the combination is phenomenal. And I was, if you're not crying at the end of this movie, the kid goes through this amazing journey. And Christopher Walken has a great little part. Hugh Jackman is amazing in it. I was crying at the end of Eddie the Eagle. It's a great, phenomenal Olympics movie. And yeah, it reminds me of Rudy. And I don't understand why people hated on this movie at all. It was just great.
I need to see it.
A great movie. If his name was Freddie, do you think he'd be Freddie the Falcon? I don't care. Eddie the
I
Eagle.
still watch it.
My wife knew all about Eddie the Eagle, and she was like well aware of him and had remembered those Olympics. She's a little older than me, but like I did not remember any of it, and to know that this was real, this is a true story. And he is a weird guy. He is a legitimate. I would not be surprised if he was like an Asperger's or something. He is a weird kid, weird guy, and yet he achieved his dream.
That's awesome.
And yeah, the Hugh Jackman resolution of his story and Eddie's story, it's you couldn't write this as fiction. They are just so good. So if you missed this movie, it is an underrated, underappreciated Olympic movie.
Yep.
But we got to move on. We got to get to the big dog tonight. The big dog is definitely baseball. And you wanted to say something about why is it that baseball has more great movies than any?
Yeah, I said. So what I think I've realized, we've talked a lot about what makes movies work, and especially when it comes to sports movies, it's the character. I mean, if you don't have the character development, it's entertaining, it's fun sometimes, but it's not going to be something that lasts, right? It's not going to. And I think what works so well about baseball as sports movies and why there are so many sports baseball movies is not because it's America's pastime. And I'm going to say that what I'm going to say is I don't want it to be taken in a bad way, but baseball is so slow that it works in a movie. Well, what I mean is you can have the stories, the character development, as we'll talk about in some of these movies here, that can take place in the midst of a game that you can't really have in the midst of a basketball movie. You can't have it in the midst of a football movie because it's so high-paced action. You can have it in boxing more because you have the corner moments. You have the fights. You can bring the corner moments in, or you can have the training moments. But to a degree, like, you have baseball is such a slow move that you can have the catcher pitcher talks at the mound of, that you have between Tim Robbins and Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
You can have the moments of in the dugout with with the coach and the manager and everything. So I feel like that's what works so well about baseball movie is baseball is a slow enough sport that it allows you to expand into the realm of the actual sport. So out of all these movies, for the most part, they're probably more loaded with sports than any other sports movies.
My wife and I were watching television when Sports Night was running on TV. So Sports Night, if you guys don't know, I'm a big Aaron Sorkin fan. He wrote Moneyball. It's right down there. It's also right there. He wrote a TV show about an ESPN type of backstory, show. And it's a great show. I loved Sports Night. And at one point, one of the young associate producers is editing down a baseball game to run on the nightly show. And it's his first time editing a piece that's going to run on the show. And it's a baseball highlight. And he's talking about how he's showing the entire game by highlighting each pitch. It's the storm clouds are gathering. He keeps saying this phrase, the storm clouds are gathering. And for me, it's the idea that baseball is in the moments between action, right? Yep. And you're talking about pacing, and it's a beautiful way to describe it. And that moment in Sports Night, for me, captures what I love about baseball, which is the things you don't catch in a highlight reel, the things that don't necessarily appear in a box score. And if you look at this list of great baseball movies, there's a lot of losers here. And it's what I love about it. 8 Men Out, no, losers, right? Even Major League, where they win the game, it's about the losers. League of Their Own, they lose the big game. Bull Durham, they lose. If you watch Bull Durham, they lose the game that sends Nuke Lelouch to the big leagues. Brad Pitt down there in Moneyball, they lose the big game. They don't win the World Series that year. It's a lot of losers. The Rookie is all about a guy who missed his shot, getting a chance to have a shot.
The Natural missed his shot, getting his chance.
I think it's a great category because it's not about winning the big game, right? It's about all the moments in between.
But someone even in the Little Big League, they lose, they don't make the playoffs in the Little Big League. Even the kids' sports movies, they know that.
Baseball's for losers. I'll tell you, this is why I love Chris. He is easily one of the best friends I've made since going into comics and being in this community. And Chris, you are an awesome guy, dude. I love it.
I was just looking at my phone a little bit ago because I was trying to see if Sports Night was still streaming because of what you were talking about. I was rewatching it probably a year or two ago. It was on one of the streaming apps, and it's not. So you're just gonna have to do that. Get yourself a copy. Yes, there's things called DVDs. You guys, John held that up. You guys can get one of those.
That technology,
because like
the only thing that will save you.
You can watch your Aaron Sorkin. You can do that. Get the Sunset Studio 60. Watch that too.
This feels like James Earl Jones's speech at the end of Field of Dreams. Baseball has always been there. It'll stand the test of time. Like it feels like Simon R. is trying to quote James Earl Jones. Should we just jump on to the list here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're gonna get in trouble, I think, with some people.
Absolutely. So here is our top, our 5 films that we agree as great baseball movies. I want you to take off on this Kevin Costner rant because the truth is, Costner owns this.
Yeah, Costner's baseball films didn't even make it, all of them on this list. Field of Dreams. I know there's so Bad News Bears that was on kids sports movies. So it's there. So Field of Dreams, I think sometimes gets put into a category of it's not a baseball movie. It has baseball theme because which rewatching it, there's a lot more baseball in it than some of these movies that we talked that were sports.
Way more than Green Street Hooligans is about soccer.
And rewatching it, I made my wife watch it with me for the first time. I cried. I've seen it 10 times. This is the movie. Like I would be.
She cried though.
Oh yeah, she cried.
Okay.
Oh yeah. This was a movie that I knew if I wanted to stay home from school, all I had to do was say, "Dad, I feel a little sick," and like, but can I just stay home? We can watch Field of Dreams or something. And like, okay, like that was my key to get like. So that was like, my bucket list is to go to Iowa to Field of Dreams and throw and have a catch with my dad on that field. Like if you I think this resonates with fathers and sons, and I have 2 daughters. So like, this is a completely different, this is for me, I look at it from a son to a father standpoint of that relationship of, what that dynamic that they go through. It stands a test for me. It's the most bonkers of a concept of a movie. If you're watching it, I'm watching it and I'm looking at my wife to say, like, what's she going to say in the midst of this? Like, okay, there's spirits that are saying things to him in the field, right? Like, okay, now he's walking in a dream sequence down the road with Moonlight Graham, who's dead, but he's not dead. And he's like, but it just is like, the storyline is like, it's bonkers, but I think if you don't get caught up in that, you get caught up into, and that's what's so beautiful about the story and the actors. They draw you into that connection, and I think it works on whether you have a good relationship with your dad, or if you go in that sense of going, I wish, because it always talks about this dynamic of a father-son relationship, but they don't have a great relationship, which makes it so great. Like, a lot of the people that talk about it is like, oh, it's a father-son movie. Well, it's a father-son movie because they can finally have those moments where you don't, so it's an interesting concept from that I could talk about Field of Dreams all day long.
Well, I think, and so the question of, is it a baseball movie or not? For me, it has enough games, enough of the sport built into it. Right. And you see, I think, almost 4 moments from different games. Now, they only go to one actual non-ghost game, but there are several other like legitimate games. For me, it counted way ahead of like Green Street Hooligans or something like that.
Oh yeah.
To qualify. I will say I picked the other 4 ahead of it. And I go back and forth. So when I was in high school, my dad and I, movie fans, sat down and made a list of our 10 favorite movies, and we both had Field of Dreams. And going back now, Bull Durham beats it. And I don't know if it's just I got older and more realistic about life, and Bull Durham seems more true than the fantasy of Field of Dreams. But they are entwined in some way for me, where some years I'm a Field of Dreams guy and some years I'm a Bull Durham guy. And Bull Durham, he loses the big game and the young kid goes to the majors and he hits his home run and never leaves the minors. It's a downer in some ways, but it seems truer. And Field of Dreams is the fantasy wish to resolve issues with your father and to connect over something that's so abstract. So I go back and forth between the two. And as an adult, I feel Bull Durham is truer to life and Field of Dreams is the wish, the fantasy. And they are the yin and yang of Kevin Costner baseball for me.
Well, what's so crazy, because we'll transition right into this, but I remember watching Bull Durham and going, this does not feel like a Kevin Costner style movie. Like it, I don't want to like raunchy sounds like too like childish to say, but like it just doesn't feel like Kevin Costner. I just get this in mind of like wholesome because I got like Field, and I know that's not his movies, but so John, I gave you a little hint. Here's your other trivia question. Can you name me what the 3 phrases are said to him?
Yeah, if you build it, he will come. Go the distance and ease his pain.
There it is. See, your trivia questions are all baseball because I knew that's where you were this was gonna be your wheelhouse.
And I'm I like Phil Alden Robinson too, the director of Field of Dreams. Yep. I think he did episodes of Band of Brothers, which is obviously an amazing show, and if everybody's not seen Band of Brothers, it's just great. He did a movie or a made-for-TV movie called Freedom Song about the marches, the civil rights movement. He's a really talented guy, and what I will say is Shoeless Joe, the novel, is not good, but Field of Dreams, the movie, is phenomenal. It's like they shined up a turd and made a meaningful movie out of it. And I think it's just one of those movies that is beyond the cinema. It transcends everything. And so for me, it just had to be. I mean, it was the 5th for me of this list, but for Costner, I mean, I didn't want Costner to dominate the baseball story, but he does. I mean, he truly – people mentioned For Love of the Game, which is lesser Costner top to bottom, but it's still Costner baseball, which is good.
Let's just say if we were making a definitive sports movie list, there will probably – and you had to pick 15 movies, there are probably going to be 15 movies baseball movies before there's a soccer movie on that list. Like, because they're so bad. Like, that's where it's like, we're like, all right, we're going to.
I love 8 Men Out, and it didn't make the list. It is, for me, it's beautiful. It's back when John Cusack was good.
Yep.
It's a beautiful film. It just, for me, these, I mean, look, you got Field of Dreams, The Rookie, The Natural, Bull Durham, and Moneyball all here. Like 4 out of these 5 I own. Yeah. I don't own Major League, but it's because I have kids and I don't think they're ready for that yet.
Wait, but you own Bull Durham?
I don't. I own Bull Durham. It's right. Yeah, right there.
I know, but you said in Major League you have kids. I'm like, well, hold on.
Yeah. Sandlot came up earlier in the kids' movies. Let's move on to. Are you ready to move away from?
We can move on to Bull Durham, where I said that. I was like, oh, it's a kids' movie. And on your stream when you were with Bueller earlier, and Bueller's eyes lit up like, because I don't
been bad for a while. Issues. I mean, I love the he did a good movie about the Beach Boys, but other than that, he hasn't been good for a while.
No.
Sorry, you wanted to go to Bull Durham.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Ron Shelton at the top of this whole thing, and how Ron Shelton makes sports movies where the winners are the losers, and whether it's Bad to the Bone, White Men Can't Jump, Tin Cup, Bull Durham, this guy knows that losing is where you learn your lessons, and I think it couldn't be more beautifully put than in Bull Durham. So all those movies I listed, he wrote and directed all of them. And Bull Durham is where he shines, I think, the most, which is it's because he was a minor league baseball player and he put all of that life knowledge into this movie.
Yeah.
And this was one of those I remember watching when I was younger. I wouldn't say a kid because my parents would not have let me watch it, but where you forget how integral the relationship aspects of the characters are. And again, it's the character, like the character development of that. It's a beautiful thing. Cause like you said, this was one I finished watching right before I hopped on this stream. John's like, all right, I sent you a link. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm finishing and watching Bull Durham. Like that was so like, this is literally fresh in my head. It is like, a guy who's kind of been a minor league player his whole life. And you have this minor league player gets brought into a team because of they want him to help get this young gun rookie up into the majors, basically. Like, and they're like, you can do this. Happens. Sorry if you haven't seen it, spoiler. It happens. He goes up. Well, John's already said it like 4 times already anyway. So, and literally as soon he goes up after a game that they lose after going on a winning streak, he gets called up. And then it's like, oh, and by the way, no, we don't need you anymore. We're going to go in. The club's going in a different direction. Here, pack your bags. Like it punches you in the gut a little bit. And, and then that plays into the relationship with Susan Sarandon a little bit of, well, what really matters in life of, finding those connections and relationships and things like that. But yeah,
I think, one of the things I love, sorry, I missed Susan Sarandon can still get it. I agree. One of the things I love about it, if you watch the movie, it's so well crafted. Like you can see how much thought went into every moment and each character's journey. I mean, I know Costner's like speech about what he loves is like a great moment, but what's more powerful about that moment is that he is choosing not to bed her. He is choosing to skip her because he knows the only way to get her is to act like he doesn't want her. And he's going to play her the way she's playing Nuke. And it's the triangle of drama that they go through, the three of them, is phenomenal. The way he plays Nuke too, and the way he tells Nuke, no, you shouldn't give in. She said, sex is going to ruin your game. You shouldn't get into that. And the way they play each other, it's just really beautifully done. And I love all the little moments that movie puts out. And it's so true. Whereas Field of Dreams is very fantasy and what you wish were true, Bull Durham is true. And I think that's why it usually ranks higher for me. It's just they're the yin and the yang of.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on what are you vibing in the moment. Like you said, like my list, when I come up with any list, I'm like, if I did this in 5 years, it's going to be different. My list of my rankings of the MCU movies are going to be different in 5 years because as I rewatch things, I value other things, and I might be leaning towards more of I want the more fantasy of Field of Dreams than the real life can punch you in the gut sometimes of Bull Durham. Like, yeah.
I agree, Carlito. Gore is full of knowledge, and that's honestly, legitimately, I've mentioned it already. I made this series of shows for Gore Vidal. He is awesome. Awesome guy.
So thank you, Gore, because I'm happy that I have a platform now to just talk about movies with someone.
So for me, the next 3 movies are related in that The Natural is the fantasy, and Major League and The Rookie might be more the reality, or maybe Major League is in the middle, but the rookie and the natural are the fantasy.
So real quick, John, before we move on, here's your Bull Durham trivia.
Okay.
What? Let's go. I don't know how long you've seen it because this is a shot in the dark. What city did Kevin Costner go to play his last game where he hit a home run after he left?
Oh,
Durham.
Jesus.
I'm not even going to ask the team name because it's junk. What's just city?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
You're going to rake me over the coals next time after I've done these to you now.
Wow. You are deep diving here.
I know.
Where did they trade him? I have no clue. If anybody in the chat knows this, somebody says
without looking it up, Memphis is wrong.
I have no clue. I do not know.
Memphis is wrong. You give it a little bit longer. Can anyone tell me what city?
Summer Catch. Come on, brother. Even Summer Catch wouldn't be top 10 baseball movies. Jessica Biel can get it, but that movie can't.
No. Freddie Prinze, no. So it was Asheville. The tourist. Asheville. Tourist.
I'm never gonna. I thought I knew that movie well.
Well, I mean, they don't even mention it. It's on the dugout when they get in, and then
they don't even say it out loud.
No, it's on the dugout, and it says it on his jersey or his uniform when he's playing.
That's hilarious. Hey, Comics for Blame. I appreciate the shot in the dark, brother. You're right with me.
Yep,
that's hilarious.
That's what it is. It's just fun. So The Natural. Whew.
All right, The Natural. Yeah, I rewatched this with my wife just this week.
All right, I want to hear your thoughts before I hop in. Then,
I mean it's the Chariots of Fire of baseball in some ways. Like the music is so iconic. The imagery is so phenomenal. Barry Levinson, I feel like cinematography wise, there is no movie on our list more beautiful to look at. When Glenn Close stands up and the sunlight is shining through her hair and her hat. I mean, Redford is gorgeous in this movie. He's like a movie starlet, how hot they make Redford look. The movie is just beautiful. Frame to frame, The Natural is perfect. But what I like more about it is the Bull Durham-esque moments where like you have the coaches talking about like favorite songs or the horrible water they're drinking or whatever. Like the moments between the assistant Wilford Brimley almost and Farnsworth almost steal this movie from the like banter they've got in the dugout. I love all the little moments on the team. Michael Madsen as the horrible like paid right fielder who crashes through the wall. I think the little moments make the movie work better than the cinematography, which makes it look pretty.
Yeah. This is one of those, and it's going to come off and sound bad. I love The Natural. I definitely have nostalgia for it more so rewatching it. Rewatching it, I remember kind of going like, first off, I'm like, my dad must have really liked his baseball movies because I'm like, there's moments where I probably shouldn't be like sitting here as an 8-year-old watching this with you. But to each their own. But the storyline is a little off for me. Like it just kind of feels out of nowhere. The whole hotel room scene that kind of sends it in this. So, but like it makes up for it is you get those moments of where, you know, like where he's out at the fairgrounds and he's throwing the pitch towards, or, you know, they're having the ball game, you know, with the big heavy hitter that he strikes out and
the whammer.
Yeah. And you have, I mean, talk about some of the most iconic moments. But you also talk about how fantasy. I mean, they make this guy out to be a hammer. But he hits more home runs and breaks things
over the stadium, through the lights, into the clocks in the outfield.
Like, don't get me wrong. That scene where he hits the lights, it's shattering, sparks are flying. He's running, his side's bleeding. Like,
yeah.
It's beautiful. The bat breaks right before he has to get the new thing. And I was going to
I will say, I watched this film after rewatching Pride of the Yankees, and I can see how that movie inspired this movie.
Yep.
There's a lot of that idea of the death of the American hero, the death of and this movie wanted to rewrite the Pride of the Yankees. It wanted to say, no. The hero in the baseball world doesn't have to die. He saves baseball. And he doesn't die with the bleeding in his side. No, he goes on to foster a generation of new athletes.
Right.
The connection between Roy Hobbs and Lou Gehrig is legit. And if you've never seen Pride of the Yankees, but you love The Natural, you are missing a connection in baseball movie history. And it's streaming right now. I think The Natural is on
Amazon, isn't it?
It's on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch The Natural right now. But don't leave us. We still got a couple more movies.
They're not. They're here for the long haul. So
3 pitches. Yeah, 3 pitches. Strikes him out.
All right. So someone already said in the chat, I was going to ask you, what's the bat called? That was the other.
Wonder Boy. It's Wonder Boy. That's easy. Yeah.
I figured. Well, especially too, if you've just rewatched it, it's hard not to know.
I think, what I love, partially what I love about this movie is that I had seen Hoosiers way before this, and Barbara Hershey as the sports killjoy is so amazing, right? This is 2 great late 80s sports movies where Barbara Hershey is like, you fucking boys in your balls. She is basically Barbara Hershey in the 80s was basically telling men, get over yourselves. I'm going to shoot you for loving baseball. I'm going to hate on you for making basketball the focus of your life. Barbara Hershey was the downer of movie sports.
Yeah. Pick me a winner, Bobby.
Yep.
Hey, it's a great
movie. I mean, that's the thing is and that's where I think for me though, Field of Dreams, I still would just fall so much on the nostalgia for me. It gets me in the feels. The moments that I remembered, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get in the feels of Natural, didn't have that same ring to me as Field of Dreams. This viewing.
Yeah.
So,
I would put those on par with one another, Natural and Field of Dreams, which is a huge compliment to both.
Yes, movies. I agree.
Let's get into the dirty, because I feel like The Rookie and Major League are about the gritty struggles of the day-to-day athlete.
Yeah, I mean, Major League, that's just a funny show. It's what I'm looking for. I don't know. I just think it takes all the elements that you love of a sports movie. It takes all the elements that make a good baseball movie, but it almost turns it on its head into a satire aspect of it, of putting it from the, you have the wild pitching of Charlie Sheen, which almost gets tangled into, the kind of very similar to the wild pitching of, Nuke and Bull Durham, but different things cure kind of, it feels like there's elements that it takes these moments that you expect from big crucial movies and flips them on. So it just is fun. So I'll let you hop in a little bit and we can go back.
Yeah, this was a movie that I probably watched more with so I watched Field of Dreams and The Natural with my dad. I watched Major League with my brothers. And this was one of those movies that was let's just laugh our asses off at the whole thing, the stripping off of the clothing on the manager. There are so many layers that are perfect for that teenage brain. Because I had a teenage mindset watching the Major League series, but mostly this one film, and it fit my mindset perfectly. And Wild Thing, that whole, my brothers and I still talk about it. It was too high. that whole, like, we quote the words "too high" to each other constantly, and we're playing games together. Oh, it's too high. It's too high. It's a great, quotable, funny movie, and one of the ultimate underdog movies.
Yep. Yeah, I will say, Chaos hopped on and he said this is almost the exact same list that Oral Hershiser had. So we're in good company.
Shout out to Oral Hershiser.
So,
yeah, and we still have two sentimental favorites that we'll get to, but like,
yeah.
I would say these are films generally about hope, even though Bull Durham is the downer probably of the lot and probably my favorite of the lot. But they're all about, like, I mean, even Crash is able to achieve his dubious honor.
Yep. Yeah, it's
talking about Joe Boo and the president from 24, who plays the Cuban baseball player, Pedro Serrano.
Yeah, and that's it's entertaining. So I'm in Ohio. I'm a Reds fan, not a Indians fan, but I mean that is classic. I can't tell you how many people I know that are like, opening day is tomorrow, I'm watching Major League.
Right?
Like, it's classic. So good, Sam.
I love Kami saying, this is my job, to tell the chat over and over again that we've already talked. Yeah, we did a whole list of kids films. If you want to watch the replay later, we mentioned all the great kids movies, and we saved the adult baseball movies for later.
I will say this though, because I feel like we're almost doing Sandlot a slight disservice, because I feel like if we didn't have a kids sports category, Sandlot would make this list for me.
I would say it would probably bump The Rookie. And
I agree. That's the one I would
do. It would replace I would leave all the others and keep Sandlot.
It almost is like, because I feel like sometimes, and I just had to say that because I feel like we're like, oh, well, Sandlot has already made the kids movie list. It's almost like we're like, oh, you want a best Oscar for animated movie, but like there's some animated movies that should have been actually just in the best Oscar category for a movie. Like Sandlot's right there.
Sandlot is the king of all the kids films and belongs in the best baseball films. Yeah. And I think that's why we made the kids category, because the truth is, Greg and I were like, there's too many baseball movies. How do we fit them all? And we ended up shoving a ton into the kids section so that we could fit more. Let's just be honest.
We had four in the kids section, and we still talked about other baseball ones.
Bad News Bears. I mean, there were a ton of
Rookie
baseball
of the Year, yeah,
that made it in the Rookie of the Year, yeah. But let's talk about The Rookie, which I think some people might have missed. I know Disney did a whole slew of like true story sports films. You know, Remember the Titans and The Miracle both were mentioned by the chat earlier. I think The Rookie could get overlooked. Jimmy Morris, his story. I mean, I'm a teacher and a dad, so I get it on another level maybe, or a little deeper maybe, that people that haven't gone through some of those things. But the Jimmy Morris story I find so interesting and so many great hurdles. If you haven't seen Dennis Quaid as Jimmy Morris, unfairly, Jimmy Morris was a heavy-set guy and Dennis Quaid is like ripped. But like, other than that, it's a beautiful retelling of what Jimmy went through and his journey to being the oldest rookie to ever play Major League Baseball.
Yeah. And it comes off of one of those, like, it does it well. Chaos is running his mouth about knowledge and stuff again. Sorry.
That's all right. He's way deep. Yeah. Here, let me take care of that.
All right, we'll shut Chaos up real quick here. Sorry, what were you saying, Chaos?
Couldn't hear him over Carlito Classico and you.
Yeah, like I feel like The Rookie does what a lot of movies try, especially sports movies, try to do that just don't do it well as well. Invincible tries to do that kind of, you had your shot, we're trying to make it, and it just wasn't. It doesn't do it as well. I think The Rookie does a very good job of it. It's a very Disney-esque movie, but say what you want, they know how to make you get in the feels.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they pull that off all through their series of. I haven't seen their golf one, The Greatest Game, but Disney did a slew of really quality, true sports films in a row. And again, Miracle, Remember the Titans, and Rookie are kind of like my three favorites, but there's a really good group of them that are powerful. And the Rookie shouldn't be overlooked because I get emotional. The father-son, Brian Cox and Dennis Quaid at the end, when they have their little moment after Dennis Quaid's Jimmy Morris gets his first chance playing in the majors and gets his first save. It's beautiful. And again, not about the guys winning the big game. He only had 2 or 3 seasons in the majors. It's not about winning the World Series. It's about not giving up on that goal, not giving up on that dream, and achieving it despite so many obstacles and odds, right?
Yeah, that's the thing is it's one of those it's one of those movies I go in going, I know I'm going to get emotional. It's like when I click a freaking video on Facebook, I'm like, oh, it's someone going to surprise their kid coming home from me. I'm like, why am I going to watch this? I know I'm going to it's going to get me emotional. Why do I click it? Why do I watch The Rookie? It's going to get me emotional.
Right. And it's good. I will say it's one of the most underrated sports movies because it's rated G. For those of you parents with kids, this is a G-rated sports film. I swear that doesn't exist anywhere. And
name me 3 other G-rated movies.
Right? There's no way The Last Boy Scout is a sports movie. I'm sorry. It's a great movie. Very enjoyable. Not a sports movie. I don't think it qualifies. It does have 2 football games in it, which beats the Hooligans.
More than my Green Street Hooligans for soccer.
It doubles the Green Street Hooligans. But it's a good comment. Let's move on to our final 2 movies of the night.
Which, before you do, I'm surprised no one's really called us out, at least on my sentimental pick in the chat.
Your sentimental pick has not come up.
It hasn't, and I'm really surprised.
So we got 2 sentimental baseball picks before we finish this show. We're at 2.5 hours, basically. So let's get to Greg's sentimental pick is A League of Their Own, which I agree is an amazing movie that was shockingly overlooked.
Yep. And I don't have to spend too much time because if you've seen it, you know my sentimental pick for a baseball movie, and it's ironic that it's my sentimental pick because there is no crying in baseball. But it still gets me emotional. It's my sentiment. I mean, it's Tom Hanks. He does what he does. There's not too much. It is a great movie through and through, and it's one that definitely is something I revisit a handful of times because I think you get to see a side of baseball from a different perspective, which I think it's a refreshing take. And it's well done.
So, I will say, I've rewatched it several times, watched it with my daughters. John Lovitz is so underappreciated in this freaking movie. I love every moment John Lovitz is in. And when they reveal the real guy at the end, it so looks like John Lovitz. It's perfect.
But
yeah, I can't believe I forgot this movie. Because I think you think of baseball and you think of so many movies, and League of Their Own gets lost a little bit. It's so unfair because it's so good. When he meets the ugly girl, and she's hitting all the homers out in the rain through the basketball gym. There's so many great moments, and watching John Lovitz say, no, we'll let you know, she's not pretty enough. What we're looking for, is not this. There's so many great Lovitz bits at the beginning that make the second half work better. And of course, Hanks is so good. and Gina Davis, so good. The cast top to bottom. I know Rosie O'Donnell has her lovers and haters. She's perfect in this.
Yep.
Madonna is perfect in this. The casting top to bottom is just Penny Marshall owns this whole movie. The casting, the writing, the directing, the editing is so phenomenal. And look, hey, Carlito agrees with you. Sentimental pick. There you go.
Well, I think that's a testament to baseball movies, right? Like, there's so many good ones out there that I feel like you forget, like, oh yeah, because I don't think too many people are going to look at our top picks and be like, oh, how, like, and then you're like, oh, but this one, and then I think it also goes with your sentimental pick. And you're like, oh yeah, this one might be a little bit more of a surprise, I think, to some people, just because I feel
they probably haven't seen it.
Well, let's see. So I know I'm old. I know I'm old, and I know I like old movies. I grew up with a dad that showed me old movies, and I saw this when I was a kid, and I hadn't seen it in probably 15 years. And it's streaming right now, or at least, yesterday, on Amazon Prime. You could watch Gary Cooper's Pride of the Yankees. Damn. If you don't cry when Gary Cooper gives his speech at the end of this movie, there's something wrong with you. It's Pride of the Yankees is too good to not be mentioned. And I mentioned it when I mentioned The Natural, because having rewatched this and then within a day rewatching The Natural, like the connective tissue between these movies is legit. You can see that Barry Levinson had watched this a ton, had been inspired by this a ton, and wanted to tell his own American mythos baseball story. Yes, we cry a lot, Chris. Stop judging us.
We have a soul.
We're in touch with our emotions and our manhood. Screw you and your insensitive heart. Gary Cooper is amazing. Admittedly, they have him playing like a teenager at one point, and he's like 40, but like he is so good. My dad is here. Dad, we've been talking about sports movies for 2.5 hours, and
you heard Pride of the Yankees, and he's here.
My dad is mentioning anything my dad says. I'm going to highlight from here on out because this is like a big deal. Look, Chaos is saying I'm crying as I type. There it is. My dad mentioned 8 Men Out, and I'm mentioning Pride of the Yankees. You'd think it would be the other way around.
This is like our own virtual Field of Dreams. You are having a YouTube catch with your dad right now. This is mind blowing.
Oh, look at my Chaos is saying your dad isn't a wrench. I don't think he'd know what to do with it. Your dad, hey, Kavi, my dad has great taste in movies, and that's why I'm mentioning my sentimental pick is Pride of the Yankees. It's a beautiful film. It's, again, less about the game. It's more about the relationship between Lou Gehrig and his wife, and the religion of Lou Gehrig and how much his culture drove him. He wouldn't have even played baseball if it hadn't been for his mother being ill and the offer from the Yankees that was on the table for him. And the story of Lou Gehrig, both the incredible journey of the history of game, the number of games, what is it, 1,300 games in a row that he played. The one that was broken later by Cal Ripken Jr. The longevity of his career, the talent of his ability, mixed with the tragedy of the ending of his career in life, it is beautiful. And it is perfectly captured. Now, here's the best part about this. So my daughter's huge Sandlot fans. And I'm watching this movie, Pride of the Yankees, and I'm like getting all worked up. And they're at the end when Cooper gives his speech and he's greeting his former teammates, right? His former Yankees. I'm not a Yankees fan either, Chaos. F the Yankees. I don't care. Nothing to do with that. And he's about to give his speech, and he's handshaking all these guys. and he handshakes Babe Ruth. Not an actor playing Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth plays Babe Ruth in this movie. And they didn't have the greatest relationship, Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth plays Babe Ruth. And it's a beautiful moment. And my daughters turned and looked at me and they were like, the Great Bambino? The Colossus of Clout?
The soul.
I couldn't have been prouder. The pride coming out of me in this moment was huge. And it was a great, the movie is, of course, exceptional. And so I just wanted to mention it because at least one classic movie needed to come up in this whole amazing list of movies here.
I mean, if you weren't going to say Pride of Yankees, I was going to say Damn Yankees almost made my list.
Hey, now my dad is a cinema buff, and he's just talking John Sayles and 8 Men Out, and look at him go. He's going the whole night.
8 Men Out. I feel good if your dad's talking about 8 Men Out because that was on my wild card pick. I sent you 3 wild card picks.
Yep.
League of Their Own, 8 Men Out, and I think Damn Yankees was my other one.
I'm proud of him for picking 8 Men Out and John Sayles, and I'm hoping he's got some pride for the Pride of the Yankees pick here. John Sayles is a huge talent. So for me, I just wanted to. This was my sentimental pick. I just really. It holds up. It really does hold up as a powerful film about baseball, about what makes somebody worthy of your respect. And Lou Gehrig is just amazing. Really amazing. I like my dad too. I have a very awesome dad. I'm very lucky. And he's up apparently at 10 o'clock at night. You're late to the show, but I'm so glad that you came by, Dad. We've been talking about great sports movies, so it's the perfect time to kind of recap.
Yes.
We picked 5 sports. We talked about kids' sports at the beginning. We followed that with boxing. We followed that with Olympics and soccer, maybe in the wrong order. I might have flip-flopped.
It was soccer, and I went whatever.
And then we finished with baseball. We counted down some of our favorite sports movies. And we will do this again. This is the Bearded Comic Bro. I put the link to Greg's channel. He is not to 300 subscribers yet. We need to get him there. So if you've watched this and enjoyed any part of this, I ask you that you just click the link and subscribe to his channel as well, because Greg's awesome. And he's going to be back when we do the next 5 categories. We're going to have basketball. We're going to have football. We're going to have mixed martial arts in our miscellaneous Is That a Sport category. We've got a ton of things coming up the next time we do this.
Yeah.
So please make sure that you check it out. Yes, Olympics movies were covered tonight. Eddie the Eagle and Chariots of Fire and so many other great things come up. So please, if you missed or only saw part of this, hey, watch it on double speed and get on the exercise bike or the treadmill and check it out, because I think we got a lot of good talk going.
Yeah. And I think we're learning. So we need John, you have to make sure you know how to do like a scrolling tracker at the bottom where it's like, these are the movies we've talked about.
Yeah, save Kavi from doing extra work.
Yeah, because there's a lot. This was a fun list to do, but I mean, I'm excited to see football. I'm excited to see your picks too, with like football and basketball because we got football, basketball, golf. I think we had as a separate category in hockey. And then we had
football, basketball, golf, hockey, and Is That a Sport? The 5th category. And I think that's going to be the 5th category. We probably will have 5 films because there'll be so many movies that we're arguing. Is that a sport? Cars, Days of Thunder, Seabiscuit.
Professional wrestling.
Right? Bloodsport.
Who knows? Maybe basketball. No, that's not gonna make sense. I don't want to get Jeffrey's hopes up. Sorry. Falls Chaos in comics, and I can say that just because it was already mentioned. Warrior
Boy will hopefully come up. Yeah, Real Steel. There's a great
robot boxing
pick, Jeffrey. I'm a Hugh Jackman fan, so you know it's going to come. Those kind of things have a chance. Herbie, car racing, right? I'm a Seabiscuit fan. I'm going to push for Seabiscuit. You watch out. But I want to thank Greg. Thank you for doing this. Thanks for letting me host this for no good reason. Do you have anything coming up that we should be aware of on your channel or elsewhere?
Yeah, I guess I am trying to now get to, as I'm doing YouTube and figuring this out a little bit, I'm going to start to be more consistent on when I drop, because right now I just drop content like, hey, whatever. So every Monday, I plan on doing an unboxing video. So if that's your thing, awesome. Check me out every Monday, sometime in the evening. I'll have unboxings. I got one coming up this Monday. Just dropped a video today where we play the game, name that comic book character. My wife has agreed to do these shows. This is our third episode, and we go back and forth quizzing each other. So I'm gonna keep that going as long as my wife's like, hey, I'll hop on your YouTube channel and talk about comics. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I literally, you guys can thumbs it down all you want and no one can view it, and I'll still do it because she's like, hey, I'll do it. I'm like, all right, we're talking comics, so let's do it. So basically I'm gonna be dropping content every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Saturday is more miscellaneous for the most part. Wednesday, I got some interviews. So just interviewed Behemoth Publishing Company, which was a really fun interview for me. They're a newer company. They did a book called Osiris Path, which is a great book, but I think they're dropping out they're trying some really cool stuff in the comic book industry. So hop on checking out Behemoth Comics and their stuff there. But I got a couple more interviews that I lined up this weekend, and I'm pretty excited about. So be on the lookout. So I don't want to say it just until it happens, because I feel like I'll jinx it.
My dad is a big John Sayles fan. He's dropping some awesome knowledge about John Sayles. I agree, a really underrated indie filmmaker. Lone Star, 8 Men Out, lots of Passion Fish. Lots of great films from John Sayles. Dad, you're rocking this chat, man. Yeah, Perry, I'm still going. 2 hours and 41 minutes. We clearly bit off more. We should probably have made this 3 streams and not 2. But hey,
but we started with like 14, and it's mixed here and there. We're still there, so y'all are riding with us. So
look at this list from Gore Vidal, Miscellaneous Sports. Biking, breaking away. Look at that, man. I can't even dig. That's just, it's a deep dive. Deep dive, Facing the Giants, a surfing movies. I haven't even thought about Point Break count, but like so many great movies here.
Blue Crush.
Thank you, everybody, for hitting the like button and checking it out. Leave a comment. Are there sports that we're forgetting? Let us know. And again, click over and subscribe to Greg's channel. That'll be really awesome. We're done. I haven't had dinner. It's 9:48. I'm going to go eat dinner now. I thank you, everybody, for coming by. If you missed the beginning, go back and watch it. Greg did all the slideshow work, all the graphics, nailed it. It was awesome. So huge shout out for all that work.
Hey, I just wanted you to, I figured if I make myself valuable, you'll keep me on our show. You already said it's official.
Who might join us for part 2? Sorry, 2. We're not on part 3 yet. Part 2. So hopefully we'll have a guest here with us when we do this for round 3, and it'll be even longer.
I was going to say, this is why we haven't had a guest so far, because we literally spent 2 hours and 45. We spent 2 hours talking about soccer and Olympic movies.
I love Grandmaster. He has noticed the fact that I have not made my channel monetized, so you can't donate. Even though I'm over 1,000, I chose not to monetize my channel, but I appreciate you. Showing up is the best monetization possible. Just leave me a comment saying thank you, and I appreciate it. So thanks, brother. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks, Dad. You get the last comment of the night. Perfect fitting end. Have a good night, everybody.